So as you might already know, if you've been kind of just following along with what's been going on lately, there's been a lot of drama happening in the lefty sphere. This circle of mostly video essayist content creators, the actual divide is not between live streamer and video essayist. Like, that's not where there is a divide in like who dislikes who. But for some reason, that has ended up being like the coincidental schism across most of the divide has been like between debate bro and like video essayist. There are debate streamers or like live streamers on the left that are cringe and on the cringe side of this, and there are video essayists who are on the base side of this, but for the most part it just ended up being video essayists versus live stream lefty creators like me. And that sphere, the cringe sphere, the woke scold sphere, has now I hope that Sean is on the base side. Sean is almost certainly not on the base side based on the fact that he was a Bernie or Buster and has some of the worst Twitter takes ever. But yeah, that said though, they've basically decided to give themselves a name, and this is Cornbread Tube. This name originates from Soulbunni, the person who we're going to be seeing debate Demon Mama in just a moment. It's like a racial thing. Like, the idea, like, it's literally supposed to be a reference to, like, race. Is what the Cornbread Tube's supposed to be. Like the reference in the name. Which is just wild to think that a name or a community with a name like that that's based on the creators being a certain race is going to take off in the left. But, I mean, okay, if they want to do that. Regardless, though, I've started to think lately, what is the best way to combat Cornbread Tube then? Because their method is basically just to say, you are racist, you are homophobic, you are transphobic, you are any of these problematic things, and nothing you can say or do will prove that wrong, because I've got evidence of you saying things like this or that are clipped out of context by Nazis that I've either fallen for or am maliciously pushing to make you look bad. This has happened to Vosh, this has happened to Keffels, this has happened to Demon Mama, this has happened to me, this has happened to Shark, this has happened to Dylan, this has happened to, who else can I think of that this has happened to in this space? I don't like Hassan, but it's happened to Hassan before. Absolutely. Like, I hate Hassan. I think he's, like, pretty cringe, but, like, it's happened to him before. Yeah, it's like, it's a pretty common thing to happen to you, you know? Is just get accused of being a bigot and have a bunch of out-of-context clips shown of you as evidence of it. And I've noticed that, like, the #1 response to that for a while now, at least from me and a lot of other people in this space, has been to debate them or argue with them on the premise of, like, proving they're wrong in their accusation. And I've started to realize that's pointless. Why would you argue? It's much like trying to argue with a conservative why something that they believe is racist. They know it's racist. They know it is. You need to, like, go beyond that and argue about the thing itself and the outcomes it'll have and why it's bad, not why it's racist. That's how you actually win a debate with a conservative. In the same way, with this Cornbread Tube area of the left, I'm starting to think the best way to debate these people would actually be to, instead of debating them on whether or not you are racist or transphobic or whatever, if they say, here, let me lay it out for you. Xanderhal, you're a transphobic piece of shit. You need to listen to trans people when they criticize you. Here's how before I would respond. Lamau, literally most of my fans are trans, so, like, you're completely talking out of your ass. Like, and then I would just sort of, like, drop a keck W and make fun of them, right? And before that, I might have even legitimately argued with them and explained what I, like, believed and tried to, like, debunk their lies about me. But that's not really, there's no point in that. The people consuming that content know it's lies. The people making the content knows it's lies. So let me lay out a different scenario. Xanderhal, you're transphobic. Okay. Maybe I am. I think everybody's actually a little bit transphobic, but do you want to talk about any particular trans issues? I'll happily have you on stream to talk about, like, transitioning kids, whether or not, gender is is the same as sex, like any topic pertaining to trans issues, I'll happily have you on to talk about. Bring them on stream, and then basically just lecture them under the pretense of what's supposed to be a debate on that topic. You just lecture them about what you believe, explain how extremely woke you are, and they can't respond to that. Like, imagine if I brought a woke scold on to debate me on the topic of, like, transitioning kids, and they get on because obviously they want to debate me on how I'm, like, a transphobic piece of shit, and I just go on a diatribe about how the overwhelming scientific consensus is that dysphoric youth should be given the opportunity, and need to be given the opportunity to transition both socially and medically. Like, if I just explain my position on certain issues, then their entire narrative falls apart. If you actually get them to talk about certain issues and not the vague idea of whether or not you're problematic, their entire narrative will fall apart. And if any of their own fans who have been suckered into these lies are watching, they'll realize very quickly, wait a second, this streamer's not transphobic. This streamer's not racist. What? How's a racist streamer going on a, like, long diatribe about how, like, over-policing and the, like, racial, like, biases in the court system are why black people are overrepresented in crime? Or, like you could literally just explain progressive beliefs that you hold on those issues instead of debating it, because they're not going to debate it with you. You're more woke than them, most likely. They're not any more woke than us. They're not any more progressive than us. So just argue about the issues. And they're not going to be able to argue with you. They'll just have to agree. And their audience is just going to realize that they got lied to about you. I genuinely think this is the best way to take these people on. The problem is, it's not like a dunk. It's not much of a dunk, is it? It's not like a very destructive, like, I'm going to destroy you, I'm going to own you in the marketplace of ideas. It's just sort of a slow, meticulous revealing of the fact that this person has no idea what they're talking about in regards to you. And that is much the method that I think Demon Mama actually took in her recent debate with Soulbunni, one of the most wretched woke scolds in all of Cornbread Tube, and also the originator of this term. Demon Mama recently debated her, and I think employed this strategy or something akin to it pretty well. I've only seen parts of this debate, not all of it, so I'm excited to watch it all on stream with you guys here today. But a lot of people were giving Demon Mama shit for not going harder, but I genuinely think that going softer and just talking about the issues and revealing that, like, the narratives about this community are just blatantly, patently false is actually the best way to engage with these people. Because they'll just play the victim if you go on any form of the offensive. I think the strategy would work if they listened to more than clips. Well, I mean, yeah, I think it would be... I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it and see how it works. Quick correction, FD Signifier was the originator of the term Cornbread Tube, not Soulbunni. Oh, I heard it from Soulbunni for the first time. Okay, so apparently it comes from FD Signifier. That somehow makes it even more cringe that it came from, like, a larger established, like, lefty content creator, and not just this, like, random nobody who just does, like, videos filmed on their phone of them, like, drawing sketches, and the only videos that get views on their channel are the ones where they're shit-talking popular lefty streamers. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense that she's not the one who popularized that. Sometimes cornbread is good. Okay? Cornbread is good sometimes. No, he said she originated the term? Okay, wait. Apparently FD Signifier says Soulbunni coined the term. Okay, so Soulbunni coined it, FD Signifier popularized it, and Soulbunni has kept it running. Okay, good to know. Anyway, a lot of people gave Demon Mama shit for this debate because she didn't go harder, but I think she went pretty hard for the parts of it that I saw, so I don't know what they're talking about, but yeah, let's go ahead and give this a watch. Anybody who thinks that you're sexist or queerphobic needs to look at all the pronouns I see in chat. I have it set so that I can see everyone's pronouns while all the names scroll by. The she, hers, and she, theys, and outnumber the he, hims by a giant margin. Lots of they, thems, ask me's, and once I even have seen it's in here. This is a very, very queer chat. Yeah, no, like, we literally have, like, a built-in pronouns feature on my website chat to make, like, misgendering not a problem. That features, like, its pronouns, and like ask me for like xeno, gender, and neo pronoun using people. So it's like we are very, very woke in our community. It really just takes being exposed to it to realize that any lies you might have been told about it aren't true. And that's basically what you have to do. Basically get these people into a convo about an actual issue that they'll agree to debate on, such as like whether or not sex and gender are the same thing. And then just reveal to their own audiences that'll be watching expecting to see, like, you getting destroyed and revealed as a racist. Instead get exposed to the fact that you're actually super fucking woke and the content creator they've been watching is a liar. That's really just the best way to do it. That's a little bit sped up. I'll slow down the debate a little bit. There we go.
Welcome to the show, Soulbunni. It's been a while since we last talked, but it's good to talk with you again.
Hey, wait.
I assume you...
Demon Mama has the Sam Bridges glasses? I haven't been over to Demon Mama's house in a while. I had to go over there and hang out, because she's got the Sam Porter Bridges glasses. I need to put those on and take a selfie for Twitter. Wait, I don't have Twitter anymore. Instagram. That's dope.
You saw most of my react.
Yeah, I saw most of it. I actually, I'll say this. I was watching your Joe Lewis video like this morning when I was making breakfast. So.
Oh yeah, I had a really.
I had no idea. Yeah, it was a really good conversation actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So for those of you guys who don't know, Soulbunni is like a monstrously bad person. Basically just imagine like Soulbunni is pretty much the embodiment of the. Soulbunni is the type of person that this meme is about. That's pretty much it. That's basically all you need to know about Soulbunni.
Joe and I go way back. Joe and I used to do the debate circuit together, way back.
The Hippy Dippy.
Hippy Dippy and all that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I really like Joe, and I was really happy that I got to sit down and talk with him about a lot of stuff, and also, give him a chance to. I think his GoFundMe succeeded, which is awesome to hear. I like Joe a lot.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I do not like Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis has called me a racist and several other insults in the past. Yeah, Joe Lewis is a piece of shit. Fuck him.
Because I think it's supposed to like I'm younger than Joe, but like I feel like I feel like he's like at that mature age where he's gonna have a different perspective. I feel or take like approach. I'd say approach.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully. And I'm not saying everyone his age takes the same approach, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe's always been, in my opinion, he's always been fairly level-headed, and
Nope.
I don't know. He's made some people mad at times, but haven't we all? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Joe Lewis is like legitimately like a bad person. Yeah. Like Joe Lewis is like super amiable to like the anti-race mixing crowd within the Hotep sphere and everything. Very like friendly with that sphere. Yeah, like the Demon Mama does have a tendency to basically the Merrick effect a little bit. Like Merrick's I think way too. She thinks way too highly of people who are on the left when all of the red flags are blaring. And I think that Demon Mama has that habit too, to see somebody on the left and to assume their progressive positions and the work they've done for progressive politics must by default mean they are some level of a good person and I should give them the benefit of the doubt, when in reality, making lefty YouTube videos is a job that makes you money. And there are a ton of people out there who are definitely doing it just for the money and are kind of pieces of shit. Bad Bunny's a good example of this. We've got the evidence that she's a grifter because of the leaked logs of her. So, like, yeah, there are people, and of course Bad Bunny is literally friends with Soulbunni. Like, Soulbunni and Bad Bunny are friends despite, like, literally everybody knowing Bad Bunny's, like, a raging racist, homophobic grifter who's literally openly said she's grifting the left for as much money as she can get in leaked DMs, along with all the DMs of her saying the N-word. And yet, Soulbunni, who thinks that the entire debate brosphere is racist and Shark 300 is a sea slur, is totally fine with Bad Bunny. Probably, I've never heard more N-words come from a white woman's mouth. Or I should say fingertips, in this case. And somehow, Kira Chats, aka Bad Bunny, is okay, but like, me or Shark aren't. Like, yeah. This debate gets much more heated towards the end, by the way. Like, Demon Mama crushes Soulbunni, but it starts off very cordial, apparently.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess I know you expressed in chat that you didn't really want to like defend the whole video. I honestly I felt pretty poorly about this video.
Oh yeah, I saw, and I said
yeah.
like you have every right to have your opinion, like, and yeah.
I just I get a little tired, of it's not just like people sometimes euphemize it as like leftist infighting, but it honestly it goes more than that. It's the stuff that
it was only ever supposed to be a conversation. She just lies a lot. Well, from my understanding, Soulbunny's just such a horrific human being that like Demon Mama could not like not go hard on certain issues. Isn't it interesting that in the essayist community, has a lot of tankies, hoteps, woke scolds, Nazguls, and using alt-right talking points to attack the left and everyone else? Yes, because right now, it was the same way during Gamergate. The left was dominated. Like, the popular figures, as if you could call them popular, that were on the left back during Gamergate, were just like this. It was like the worst possible representatives of the left were the most popular figures. Those that were like reasonably chill, just doing their own thing and making good content. The most recognition they ever got was nothing but harassment and abuse. Riley J. Dennis, Milo Stewart, they were very reasonable, very based. I've gone back and watched their videos from that era. Nothing they said back then was ever like wrong or controversial. It is the kind of stuff that would not get you even the slightest bit of shit today. But they got nothing but abuse back then. And the reason for that was because it was a time when the largest lefty figures were just the most insufferable pieces of shit imaginable, things like BuzzFeed and whatnot. And the right just kind of dominated politics and culture across the board. Like Christy Winters and Kevin Logan were like the biggest people on the left back then. Like just the worst fucking people, Christy Winters called me misogynistic for supporting Bernie Sanders. Like back in 2019, I think it was. 2019 or 2020, I think. It was years ago. And then she like talked down to me because I was 19 years old at the time. Like someone commented that I was 19 years old, so she started like talking down to me. And I think I called her a cunt.
That goes beyond like infighting is going to happen. People have differing opinions on all kinds of topics, even within like the same ideological quadrants or whatever, like anarchists disagree about all kinds of stuff. God knows the MLs can't agree with each other. They purge each other all the time. So it's normal to have a certain amount of infighting. And I think that that's like actually healthy when people have ideological differences. But I really think that sometimes this shit goes way too far. And not just that, but that a lot of stuff just gets, I have a huge problem with people like
It's because Christy's, or the fucking, what's her name? Fucking Christy, Winter or whatever her name was. I forget what her name is. She fucking hated Bernie. She despised Bernie and bought fully into the narrative that Bernie was misogynistic. She was like big on the Elizabeth Warren train. So like anybody who was like iffy about Elizabeth Warren and pro Bernie, she was calling misogynistic at the time, or like sussy or whatever. Basically, she was saying, I'm really, suspicious of anybody who still supports Bernie after the questionable things he said about women or whatever it was. Yeah. I think it was along those lines.
Overstating harm. And I feel like that's something that happens all the time, especially with Keffals. Like, I get it. Like, people have a lot of reasons to like dislike Keffals, and that's one thing. But I feel like, I don't know, it's tiring. It's exhausting.
There are people in chat who don't know what tankies, hoteps, woke scolds, and Nazguls and MLs are. Really? Do I need to give like that lore backstory? Okay, I'll give you like a run through of each, okay? Tankies are hyper-authoritarian leftists. These are people who like simp for North Korea, China, the USSR. They deny genocides and like horrific atrocities committed by self-proclaimed communist nations. They really care about communism in name only, and they're super cringe, okay? Tankies are bad. Hoteps are basically black supremacists. They're in favor of segregation. They are against race mixing. They're against interracial marriage and relationships. They're against integration. They don't like the idea of black and white and other races living together. They work very, like, they basically have all the same opinions as Nazis. A lot of the time they're even homophobic and anti-Semitic too, and they believe that, like, Jews are pushing diversity as well. But they, instead of like what the Nazis believe, they believe that it's hurting black people, while the Nazis believe it's hurting white people. So just basically imagine a black Nazi, but they believe that all the things the Nazis believe is actually hurting black people more. And then, like, then you've got the woke scolds, which are, you know, just extremely hypersensitive, lefty infighty type people that'll just, like, go at you for the slightest misgiving they have with your rhetoric or what you've said or your opinion you have. And Nazguls are, like, hyper-populist. There's a lot of, like, overlap within these communities, I should mention, but Nazguls tend to be, like, hyper-populist, socially Nazis, and rhetorically socialist. Basically, they're Nazis who use leftist, pro-worker, pro-working class rhetoric to try to make their Nazism look more palatable. Instead of your old, like, traditional, like, state capitalist, like, Nazism. Yeah. Yeah. And then MLs are tankies. MLs are just, it's just a word that people, it's a more specific, like, set of theory, but they're tankies, so don't trust any MLs. There are no good MLs. Like, I need to make this clear. There are 0 good MLs. They are all bad. Do not trust any MLs. They are all bad. 100% of them are bad. There are no good MLs. Every ML that is a good person is a future not ML. Okay? Marxist-Leninist. Marxist-Leninist. That is just simply how it works.
Exhausting to see, especially when I see, like, people that I otherwise respect or that I have some level of respect for. I respect the stuff that they do, engaging in, like, I don't know, like, putting blinders on, it seems, in order to, like, to find a reason to justify being really, really harsh to somebody when they could just say, I think X person is a fucking idiot. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't understand the need to turn so many struggles into, like, a political, not even a political struggle, that's not even right, but to, like, try and find, like, some sort of moral failing that has to go above and beyond and, like, speaks to somebody on, like, a deep level, instead of just being like, I think that Keffels is abrasive and inconsiderate, which I obviously have no problem with people saying something like that, because I don't care. I'm not like the
I would say, like, even for example, like, I saw someone today, like,
the issue is that just expressing that somebody is not, like, your taste in content creator doesn't do anything to destroy their life or career. The goal of these people is to destroy the lives and careers of those they go after. It's why many of them were, like, pack watching Eat at Night. It's why, even though the hashtag say her name shit was literally about raising awareness about a murdered 16-year-old trans girl who was hate crimed, why they still continue to push this shit and basically just redirect the attention from the actual issue of this child was hate crimed to white people are colonizing this hashtag. You know, like, they have to move it to that topic. It's very blatant that they don't actually care about anything other than trying to destroy the lives and careers of those they hate. Zan, weird how these people go after people like Keffels, who are also smaller than many of them. In some cases, the creators are larger, but they specifically heighten their attacks when the creators they go after are dealing with shit in their personal lives. I got the most shit from woke scolds during my breakup with Lonnie. Like, that wasn't really, like, it didn't really harm me much mentally. Like, I was actually pretty happy getting out of that relationship, especially with, like, the revelations that came out of it and how much better my life got afterwards. But perceptively, people would assume after a breakup like that, I would be in a really bad mental state. So people start, like, I got a lot more attacks from woke scolds because they assumed I was in a more fragile state, mentally speaking. And then, of course, like, you've got Keffels getting swatted. The woke scolds went after her the most after her swatting, after she had attempted murder committed against her, a hate crime committed against her. They went after her in that state. They went after the most when they found out she was in rehab because she was going to attempt suicide by taking heroin and overdosing. And so we, like, literally everybody in her friend group, ended up getting her into rehab. And what did the woke scolds do when they found out about it? They leaked it for their own personal clout. They're just genuinely bad people. Just expressing that Keffals isn't their thing wouldn't be enough, because that doesn't actually harm Keffals in any way. Their goal is to commit harm, not to express an opinion.
People are defending this black guy, saying he wishes death on Keffals, and they were defending it. They were defending him because of how Keffals responded to that, and I'm like, that is not the hill I would die on. That's actually so cringe. It was so cringe to see that, because obviously, like, even though I'm, I'm pretty sure you sound sort of, I am sort of involved in the current discourse.
I know there was a video you made, about Shark, which I mean, I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you saw my.
I saw your
probably
response,
did.
and I will say.
Yeah, that video on Shark where she just calls Shark the C slur over and over. Like, literally, it's just a video she made where she calls Shark a slur over and over again. Like she literally just made a video where she calls a black guy she doesn't like a racial slur over and over again, and the whole video is about, like, the premise that that racial slur applies to Shark. Like, that is the entire video that she, like, that is the state of Cornbread Tube.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I did not. So I see why you and other folks would see it as, like, me using your clip as you endorsing that statement, but that's not what was like the goal, or even the way I intentionally did it. So I won't deny that I can see how it would come off that way for, like, other folks, but it was more like me showcasing that, like, you were calling out that behavior in the space, not necessarily. I personally just, like, was showing an example, like, lining up your audio of calling it out, and I could see how, like something like, so it wasn't like me trying to say, well, Demon Mama is calling out Shark, no, because you never named names in that entire thing in that moment. Like, you just said that this is misinfo, and that's not cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't assume that you had done it intentionally or anything like that. I think in my first response, I hope that came out clear. That I felt the need to clarify, because so many people messaged me that I was in that video, and I wanted to be clear that I'm like, because I'm gonna be completely honest. Like I've been open about this. I don't think that the way that most people talk about Shark is particularly cool. But I'm also like, I'm not like the police of content. If there's something that sticks out to me, like this video, I've been seeing it talked about for the last week or whatever. It's been 9 days since the video came out, and it's been on every timeline. It's been all over Discords. It's been everywhere. And so I'm like, all right, I guess I got to look into this, because it's been everybody talking about it. But, I try not to, like, police everybody's interactions with one another, especially when it's like
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. Sorry.
I was just going to say, especially when, like, it's a topic that's, like, talking about the C slur, like, and the way that that's used, like, in between, black people. Like, that's not, like, what am I supposed to say about that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to say about that outside of me thinking.
No, come on, Demon Mama. That's kind of a cringe take. That you can't have an opinion on Soulbunni's video where she just calls Shark a racial slur over and over again for not hating Vosh. Come on. I know this gets more heated later on. I know that a lot of people got upset for this debate because Demon Mama didn't go harder, but, like, that is a cringe take. That is a cringe take. That is objectively a cringe take.
Me saying, like, on a comparative level, I don't think, like I think that sounds harsh to me. Like, but what am I supposed to do? I don't have a commentary on the inter-community discourse. Like, I mean, fuck, like, there's all kinds of things I could talk about that are, relevant to groups that I belong to. Like I did a video on the R slur and why I think that some people claim that they're reclaiming it when they're not actually. They're just using it to be an asshole to somebody else. And I do think that those generally apply, and I guess I apply that to most things. Like, I don't go around calling.
Well, that's the point of it. It's an insult.
I am definitely, I'm definitely a faggot. You know what I mean? But I don't go around calling other people that.
No. Yeah, I get that. I'll say this. So there's this, like, with the Shark thing, I feel on both sides. I'm gonna say this. I made my video. I made a tiny segment because it was a very short part on Shark. It was a very short part.
Yeah.
Well, on both sides, people, I can stand on my own words. But what I will say is on both sides, because I at the time it was only like a 3K sub channel. Both sides escalated the situation.
Damn, she gained 13,000 subs in like a month just from making hit piece videos. That is how much of a market there is within the currently existing online left for hit piece videos on Debate Bro streamers. There's so little, like, market within this section of the left for any actual political commentary or anything talking about the real issues that like are being faced by marginalized groups in this country, that channels are getting started off on nothing but hit pieces on content creators that like that aren't even problematic, that they just don't like. They just have a grudge out. What did this side do to theirs? Nothing. Nothing. These people are literally just bad. A lot of this, you will find, actually, if you dig down through it enough, a lot of this leads back to the tanky versus not tanky side of things. A lot of this really does get back to the fact that the core disagreement of this is all tankies versus non-tankies. Soulbunni, from what I can tell, is a tanky. A lot of the people that are enabling this shit are, like, tankies or big-time tanky enablers. It's just, I've noticed that being, like, very authoritarian leftist, quote-unquote, is a very common through line with these woke scold types in, like, the cornbread tube area. It really seems like this is the tanky sphere actually propelling this in large part. Because if you haven't noticed, like, the entire tanky side of the internet is so deranged about Debate Bros streamers that there are entire subreddits dedicated to getting us deplatformed. For example, there's the Enough Vosh Spam subreddit, which is a subreddit dedicated to trying to get Vosh deplatformed off of everything. There's a Enough Xanderhal Spam subreddit for doing the same to me. And there's the same for, like, Demon Mama and Keffels and Shark, I'm sure, as well. These are all tankies in these communities, by the way. Like, they're all very openly just tankies on these sites. So the largest community of hate watchers and hate, false reporters and everything that this side, like my side of LeftTube has, are tankies. That's where the true schism seems to lie.
Extremely, and it just got really intense, and it was just like,
Do you
this is like me saying this like myself right now, but like it, like I mean on both, I'm literally saying on both sides. So like it was literally like.
I mean, don't you think people went pretty hard on Shark? Like, even if he does like,
well, that's what
don't
I'm
you
trying
feel
to
like
say,
people are a little like
well, that's
I don't
what I'm
know.
trying to say, that on both sides, like there was things that like I don't even personally endorse that people were doing the most. Some people were really doing the most, and I had to tell like people personally, like a creator, and I won't say their name, but it was like I'm like, hey, like that was kind of intense, and I'm also getting blamed for that, and it's like I'm not over here sending my goons after folks. I'm not like, but that's how the way people were talking about it, as if like I was telling people.
Mind you, if you even like respond to false allegations these people make against you online, and like a single one of your fans says, hey, what you just said isn't true in their replies, they'll say you sent your audience after them to like harass them. They can make a whole like hit piece video filled with lies and calling you slurs, and that's not encouraging harassment. No matter how many times they admit they have to tell people not to like send you death threats. But if you respond to it, then all of a sudden you're engaging in targeted harassment towards them.
To go to do the most, like I don't personally like I said, like some people, like
yeah, and the harassment they describe is always disagreement, because when I see some cringelord that follows me harassing another content creator, I block them. Because it makes me cringe. Seeing even, like, if I see, like, one of you guys, like, even, I would ban people who would bother Flamenco, my old stalker. There were some of my own fans that would go and seek out Flamenco and try to fuck with them, and I'd see that shit on Twitter or whatever, and I'd block those people. Because, like, why are you giving him attention? Why are you being cringe like this? What the fuck? I don't want you in my community. I've generally done a pretty damn good job of trimming my community down to, like, pretty reasonable people. I do very regular purges on my community to get undesirables out, particularly tankies and those that are like extremely unstable mentally and have a strong parasocial relationship with me. I just, like, my channel would be magnitudes larger if I was friendly to tankies, woke scold. If I, like, acquiesced to what woke scolds wanted from me, if I, like, became like Hassan and was super pro tanky and tanky friendly on my stream and like did soft like Russia apologia like Hassan and Kyle Kalinske do at every turn. Like if I basically just straddled the line between like keeping tankies and normie lefties like you guys happy, then I would be so much larger and more successful. But I'm not a grifter. I see these like red fash pieces of shit and I call them out. I don't think Hassan is a tanky. No, Hassan's just like either so stupid or just cares about the clout enough that he has a very large tanky community. He regularly, like, I'm pretty sure Hassan might even be a tanky because when he talks about anarchists, he talks about them negatively and as if he is not one. And my understanding of communism is there is authoritarian communism and libertarian communism. Anarchism theory takes up pretty much all of libertarian communism, so I'm thinking he might be Hassan defends North Korea. Okay, yeah, Hassan's a tanky. Okay, yeah, no, it makes sense then. Hassan's a full-on tanky. You guys, like, dick ride Hassan so hard. I need to, like, get heavy and into shape so that, like, you guys will just, like, turn your brains off and make excuses for anything I say or do, dude. If you're question marking right now, then this doesn't apply to you because you don't defend Hassan. But yeah. Does he really? Do you guys not remember Hassan, like, doing the Russia apologia too? Here's a clip. Hassan Piker defending Putin on Twitch using Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
But, like, you feeling bad about the Crimean annexation does not change the reality of the Crimean annexation being a completely justifiable fucking act by the Russian government, okay? So that's it. That's fine. And Hitler invaded countries based on Germanic ties at first? Yeah, dude. Talk to me when he's fucking throwing Ukrainians in a fucking... What are you talking about? Talk to me when he's throwing Ukrainians in a concentration camp, okay? Hitler wasn't fucking bad because he decided to invade Austria. He was bad because he was fucking killing Jews, okay? That was the problem. He wasn't like, oh yeah, we're gonna fucking annex territory with like Germanic people in it. That wasn't the main problem with Hitler, I think. That was like maybe 8th down the line.
So this was back when the invasion was ramping. So this was when he got proven wrong. So this was prior to this. He said that Russia wasn't going to invade Ukraine. Prior to that clip, he'd said there was no chance Russia was going to invade Ukraine. And then that was when the news that Russia had just started the invasion just hit. All of his chatters were like, Putin's doing it. Are you going to stand by this? And that's Hassan having a meltdown because people are holding him to account for it. Hassan literally will take Russia or China or North Korea's side in the most like semi like just weak-willed, spineless way fucking possible to keep the tankies in his community happy. Because a large portion of his community are tankies, and the sad part is, a large portion of people who actually consume left-wing political content online are themselves tankies. If you are going to be like majorly successful to Hassan's size online, you have to be at least accepting of tankies in your community. That is the only reason he has the money and success and clout that he has, is that he does not excise tankies from his sphere. If he did, he would not be Hassan as we know him today. So yeah, that's why I have a pretty negative opinion of Hassan.
It's on both sides, but even just for me, it's like for people in the MySpace, like I do feel like some folks just like really took it to the next level, and I didn't expect that. Like I had my own personal critique, and even with me saying whether you guys, non-black people, how they feel about that segment, it wasn't meant for it to explode into these things, but also like on the other half, it's like. I would say this, like, I don't think my video would have ever blown up to the degree that it did. Like, it wouldn't have even got the numbers that it did if it wasn't for a 15-second clip circulating.
Well, I mean...
There's that.
Yeah.
Oh, no. A 15-second clip of you calling a black live streamer slurs? Getting shared around on Twitter? You feel misrepresented by that clip, do you? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that'll happen. Like, that's
Well, yeah,
just
that'll
something
happen.
as a content creator, especially, like you've gotten a lot of attention from this stuff. So I imagine your platform's growing a bit. It's definitely something you have to be conscientious about. I mean, I know I think about it. I think about it so much that like like fuck, it can mess with you sometimes. Like, I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I know how everything that I say can be taken and so, but also there is a certain amount that you have to go, okay, well, if I say something super harsh and super inflammatory, that people might run with that. And yeah, so I mean, certainly, I imagine you probably didn't think it was going to go as far as it did with.
Demon Mama's doing a good job of turning basically the argument that I bet Soulbunni wants to make against a bunch of us, while pretending like her positions are not as extreme as they are in debate as she does on Twitter. Demon Mama's doing that to her and saying, yeah, I think you should just watch what you say, you got to be careful. Yeah, you just gotta, if you're gonna say inflammatory stuff, you gotta watch your language, Like the same thing that I'm sure Soulbunni wants to say.
With your current subscriber count and everything, but I don't know. I feel like, at least personally, when I look at that situation, I don't know everything about it. I don't know if there's like things. I mean, I haven't seen Shark respond in the same tone to the people who've been criticizing him lately. I mean, the amount of stuff I've seen, and I'm like most people would at least perceive me as being like closer to the Vosh sphere because I'm personal friends with Vosh. But in truth, as far as following goes, I have a pretty even keel, and I've seen a lot of comparisons between like Shark and Candace Owens, and when I hear that, I'm just like, man, that is like, I feel like that's just so overstating the case. Like, and I mean, like, I say that as somebody who's been fucking torn.
It's racist. The only thing Candace Owens and Shark have in common is their race. That is the only basis to compare them on. So yeah, it's racist.
Into by people on really unjust things. Like, I mean, God, like, again, there was an entire period of history of my channel where people were accusing me of being a transphobe, and the reason why was because I made an argument in favor of self-identification, and that was then taken, well, if you believe in self-identification, and this is the telephone game that's played, if you believe that self-identification, for trans people, that like a woman is somebody who identifies as a woman as a basic rule for how you treat other people, that means that you don't think that trans people are women before they come out of the closet, which is kind of a huge jump in logic. But then that was justified to call me a transphobe and then compare me to, most commonly I was compared to the sex criminal Jessica Yaniv, which is insane. And that was something that was all over the place. People were just, because I have a self-identity thing, of course. But that's like, it's hurtful and it's dishonest. And people on the internet are going to say all kinds of things, but this was not just this wasn't just random people on the internet. This was being pushed by fucking by content creators and people with some level of platform. And
I'm pretty sure this was DGG.
It just builds into this atmosphere where I feel like everybody's brains end up turned off because nobody is like reining anything in anymore. That it's all just everything. It's like an all-out war where no holds are barred, and you can compare anybody to anyone and say whatever the fuck you want, and they piss me off, so it's okay for me to fuck them over or whatever. And I don't know. I oppose that so strongly, especially because like most of the people that we're talking about here have had a modicum of success. Like, this is especially true among like all marginalized creators. Like God, the amount of success I've had, or Shark has had, or even Vosh. Like, I remember just yesterday I was looking at a video, and I was watching a video, and in the sidebar, it had in the recommended tab, it had one of my videos that I was reviewing for a clip, and it was like, finish this video, and then below it has the recommended videos, and it was my video, Vosh's video, and an H3H3 video. And my video had like, at the time, like 1.7 thousand, views. Not a whole lot of views. It was a less popular video. Then we have Vosh's video, which had 65,000 views. And then we had the H3H3 video, which had 1.3 million views in 2 hours. And I'm just like, the scale.
That tells you how much pull the left actually has on the internet. The left does not have much power right now, socially, online. There is not much of an audience, so to say, to consume lefty content, while there is a massive audience that basically does nothing but consume right-wing content. And this is a fulfilling prophecy, right? When it is so hard to make even the slightest bit of a living doing left-wing political commentary, it's basically impossible to start. And it's harder to keep going, right? And so the less content creators that are able to keep it going and to foster a community that like wants to see this content, the poorly everything does across the board, you know? Like you can compare it to elections as well, but I mean, when all across back in 2019 to 2020, when basically all of LeftTube, as you could call it, was at its peak, you know, producing content as much as possible, making content that was generally speaking pretty insightful and good, everybody was benefiting from it. Despite there being more active content creators making content about these topics than ever, those videos were doing better than ever across the board. Because the more creators there are in that sphere, the more of an audience is created. This niche doesn't really exist yet on its own. There needs to be like people making the content for the niche to exist and people discovering the niche for it to grow. That's not a thing on the right. On the right, they just have so much money. They pay to run Abby Shapiro's channel as ads on YouTube on every other video you watch for a year, and eventually she's got like 300,000 subs and they don't need to pay for it anymore. You guys remember that? When YouTube just decided Abby Shapiro is just going to be a big YouTuber now and just ran ads for her videos on everything, and all those videos would be ratioed by people leaving dislikes until eventually she grew an actual conservative audience, which is what she has now. Like, they'll just astroturf somebody into prominence on right-wing YouTube, and they'll actually eventually grow a real audience. That's why Cornbread Tube wants to be the only game in town. They want a walled-off entertainment ecosystem with a captive audience. You're fighting an actual industrial complex. I mean, yeah, that is essentially what they want. I think they want a monopoly on what is considered left-wing content. I think they believe that, like, hypersensitive video essay, tanky adjacent or tanky friendly content is what should be leftist content online. And what me, Vosh, Demon Mama, Keffels, Shark, what we do is creating a like competing form of leftism to theirs. I think that's how they view it. That's a good point.
You know, the scale that we're dealing with in these spaces, I think sometimes gets forgotten. Not that things should be looked the other way, but that when people are like comparing, you know, random small creators to like in the video we watched today, comparing, you know, Keffels and Vosh to Dave Chappelle and J.K. Rowling is like, it's like comparing a firecracker to an atom bomb in terms of like effect and in terms of advocacy. In basic, it's almost incomparable. And I feel like when we get to that level of hyperbole, it just starts to break everything down, and it just makes the space nothing but toxic, right?
Well, I'll say this. I like to just like speak on like even my own video, because my own video is also like it has its own intensity to it already. Yeah. So like sure. I feel like, for example, when it comes to Shark, I even like tweeted at him to kind of make my statement clear, since before so like I personally, and again, this is how I personally feel, I'm not like reining in folks. I'm not going to like.
Oh, by the way, I should remind you all, because this is going to be good for I guess like sort of a good required watching for this debate. The video should be going up on my channel around the same time this one does. It hasn't gone up yet though. The last stream we reacted to Keffel's new video about Soulbunni, where she broke down all the receipts proving that Soulbunni is just a dishonest fucking liar. Do not take a single thing that Soulbunni says seriously. I highly recommend you watch that video. A lot of screenshots, a lot of receipts. Soulbunni and all the people that she's thrown in with are like genuinely just awful liars. The video is really good, and it does a good job of showing you how much of a connected, like an interconnected thing that this is. It's not just a group of creators who are all cringe in their own different way. They're actually trying to form a community based around the idea of pushing this like woke scold shit now. Wait, what video? Keffel's new video about Soulbunni. I think it's called These People Are Abusive. I think that might be the name of it. But I watched it on stream last stream, so it'll be going up as its own video soon, so just keep an eye out for it, okay?
People they can feel what they want. People, and also because they want to say, before I even say this, like I probably me and Trek agree on 95, maybe 96, maybe even a higher percentage of that of things. And I know he makes great content, so like I'm gonna like make that known.
The other 5% is that Shark thinks that interracial marriage is okay, and Soulbunni thinks it's bad.
But I do feel personally that there's similar tactics that he uses as Candace Owens. He's not a literal Candace Owens. He's not. But the tactics, and I need to go into the tactics. It's like I didn't really lay that out in my video.
Soulbunny's already walking shit back. Soulbunni was extremely vitriolic in the video, literally just calling Shark the sea slur over and over. She's pretending to be all soft ooh-woo, like, composed right now, but, like, this is an act.
But the tactics to me that I observed as a black person, is I feel that because Candace Owens is a smart woman. She's dumb sometimes, virtually dumb sometimes, but she knows that she has a brand and what she's doing and how she's going to climb up her social ladder by making specific moves. And that's how I felt. And maybe, and you know, let's say this, maybe I can even be wrong about what I perceived as those tactics. So I can give him that charitability that maybe potentially I was wrong on my examples that made me feel that he's using these tactics. But that is essentially where I'm at with that. But also just like after seeing like even his response video, I do stand in where I feel on things, but I'm still like, I don't wish bad upon him. I don't, like, I never expected like things to get to like, again, like people were talking to me as, cause like, I'll say this, like when everything was going down after my video uploaded and whatnot, stuff like, I didn't.
So the response that Soulbunni will get from her audience for this is, you go way too easy on these people. You're so brave for going after these fucking, these awful, horrible people. You go way too easy on them, though. But you're an absolute saint for spreading the word about how awful Vosh and Keffels and Xanderhal, etc. are. Like, that's the kind of responses they get in their comments. So, like, she's basically trying to act as... The point of it is to basically try to look like this image. She's trying to embody the like energy of this image. Do you get what I mean?
And like outside like the clip that went viral, viral in our space, and I responded to that directly. But like I had a bunch of creators and other people in my comments, and I didn't respond to them. You know, I had certain people come back day after day, like relitigating things. I didn't respond to them. I didn't respond to their comments. So that's why for me, I felt like everyone else was escalating it, and I was like not like responding to like folks directly. And the only person I did respond directly to was Shark, because like I saw his response to the clips circulating, and I responded to him in my own tweet, so that I stand on. So
do you think do you I'm sure you can understand like why somebody would, and I think at least you might be able to understand why somebody might be in the right to feel like a comparison to Candace.
Oh no. 18 minutes and 34 seconds in, and I've been recording this for 55 minutes. Look, chat, it's all coming together, and Cherry can edit all this setup out of the video in post. So we'll be all good. There we go. Look at that.
Candace Owens is like extra hurtful.
I can see why it's hurtful.
Right. And also like, but can you also acknowledge that so here's something I've talked about on my stream a lot. You've probably even heard me talk about this. These are spaces of reputation. Because of the way that the internet operates, your reputation is a lot. My channel got severely choked by the fact that I had some pretty huge, I mean enormous, we're talking way bigger than anybody who's been talked about today, you know, bigger even than Vosh at the time, you know, content creators who were just obsessed with me. And I mean manifesto level obsessed. You know what I'm talking about. Name, but I know what you're talking about. I know what like that hurt my channel growth, because there was thousands, I mean hundreds of thousands arguably of people who were told by a source of some sort that they had some trust in, that I was this, that, and the other thing. I was harmful in this way, that I was dangerous. That was literally the thing that some of the things that was said about me explicitly was that I was dangerous, a harm, dangerous to the trans community was one of the things that was used. That was broadcast to hundreds of thousands of viewers with what I would consider to be actually fraudulent evidence. So in these spaces of reputation, you can probably understand where, or at least I hope you can, understand why like making a comparison to someone as infamous and in my opinion, very malignant as Candace Owens might do some serious damage, or if nothing else, let's say that the damage doesn't happen, at least cause a very genuine fear of reputational damage, right?
Yeah, of course. The thing is, like, I felt so yeah. So that's like a given. That's like a given in this space. So like my goal was because like for me, like I said, like the tactics of Candace Owens is the way like he strategically had certain takes that to me, as a black person, came off very mask off. And my final straw was the Cat Black situation.
Sure.
And I'm gonna say this: no one has to agree with me. That's where I'm at. Like I'm not. Like I know how I feel as a black person.
God.
That's where I feel crossed, and that's what I spoke on. And when I saw his response video, it kind of further confirmed how I feel, for different reasons this time though, for certain things that were said that I wouldn't move that way. So yeah, that's basically where I stand. Because like if I felt like something I couldn't stand on, I wouldn't put it in a video.
Taking a minute for
That's
you
how
to
I
load
personally
in.
feel. So because I don't just throw things out there lightly because it's not a joke.
I guess all I'm saying is like when I think of Candace Owens, like I mean Candace Owens is.
And remember, I said tactics.
Yeah,
like,
but even tactics.
and
Let's
I'm-
just say on the tactics of Candace Owens. When I think of the tactics of Candace Owens, I mean Candace Owens is she helped found a right-wing propaganda outlet known as the Daily Wire, you know, and where she has sort of assembled a crew and uses her own identity as a shield for people like Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh. You know, these like
Oh, yeah, I saw
and
Candace
that's not
come
even to
up.
say like her own arguments. And when I look at her tactics, I mean, her tactics have been like outright manipulation. She has like stomped down other creators, you know, on a great level. Like I mean, down to the degree of like it doesn't matter. She doesn't care about what their race is. She doesn't give a shit. She will just choke out anybody and use basically any tactic to be able to do that. I feel like that, like even if you say the tactics of Candace Owens.
Candace Owens is unironically one of the most well-documented grifters on the entire internet. Like as far like the documentation proving that she is a grifter and doesn't actually believe anything she spews is probably the most like available of any other right-wing commentator. Her history has been so storied and like collected. There's like a live updated timeline article that I went over a few times already that literally just goes over all of Candace Owens' grifts with the evidence included. And it's just incontrovertible. Like it gets updated regularly, by the way. It really is hilarious how much Candace Owens has flip-flopped her entire personality and life goals for what is obviously the most profitable endeavor at the given time. There's just no comparison.
The tactics of Candace Owens
point out like
are
which tactic that I'm referring to. So like the tactic, like some of the things that Candace Owens saying, she knows is bullshit.
well, sure, but I mean, but there's
And
lots
she
of
knows
people who
that
do that who aren't Candace Owens, right?
Candace Owens, for example. Because Candace is not a new phenomenon, but she is the most successful. She is the most successful. So, she's taking the whole paid Black Republican route, where you know what they want to hear, you know how to like brand yourself and to get into certain spaces by strategically making decisions whether you believe in it or not.
Yeah.
So, where it comes for me is I feel when it came to two specific situations, and I'm purposely not saying the names because folks can see the video, and I don't want to like relitigate those people that use
Yeah,
it.
and I mean, I'm not super interested in like drilling down on every issue you have. I mean, I guess what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is like, you know,
see where I'm coming from too, though. Like why
I mean, to a certain degree, like I do
and yeah,
understand where you're coming
yeah,
from. Like, I mean, God knows, like there are things. I mean, I can use a very specific example. There are rhetorical tactics and arguments that Vosh uses and positions that Vosh holds that drive me fucking batty.
I know you're the one person that would like actually like as a friend that you've never felt like you couldn't have a criticism of them. Hence, like the video I used your clip from because but I only stuck to you where I felt was the only point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I
that's
guess.
why I didn't include all the other stuff because that was just like I don't want other people speaking for me.
I guess
I know
all I'm trying to say is like even with the stuff that drives me, and again my history having like at great personal cost. Let's just say the times that I've disagreed with Vosh, I have lost subscribers. In fact, one of the biggest loss of subscribers ever happened with my last public debate with Vosh. I lost 1,000 subscribers in the course of like 2 days. It severely damaged my channel. My channel was not very big at the time. That was devastating. And I still published the video. I still put the video up. I still stood by that, even though it made his fans, a lot of his fans very angry at me. But even still, like I can't imagine comparing Vosh to like, I don't know, Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh or something, just because even if he has like an argument that I think that like a tactic that like is borrowed from those people, the comparison to such a major figure is so severe and so like hyperbolic that it comes with implications that you can't control. Like even if you were being spicy or whatever, which people fucking talk that
Candace
shit.
was an example as like an archetype is what's the point. So it wasn't that I was trying to say he's using the tactics of a right winger. That's not was ever what that means. And I can get how.
But you got to admit, Candace Owens is a pretty spicy archetype to pick. Like especially.
It's
The only
specifically black archetype,
comparison
but
is
pointing out that Black people are well aware of within our community.
The only comparison is race. The only actual like comparison that can be made is race. Like that's the only reason she said that. The only like comparison. That's it. That's the only through line. She's just racist.
But Candace Owens is the one example that people in politics is well aware of that utilize these specific tactics as a Black person. So
I mean,
again, like that
sure.
segment was meant for Black folks. It wasn't really like that was me speaking as a Black person on how I genuinely feel and where I stand.
You'll notice, by the way, that she's essentially pretending like this whole cornbread tube community speaks for Black people online. Like, she's making a video for Black folks. She's making videos to speak for Black folks, to express these opinions that Black folks haven't been able to get out before. Like, she's coming into this acting like she's this, like, lone, lucky person of color online that has had the opportunity to expose the evils of these content creators. And it's like, no, you're just indistinguishable from a Fed.
But also, like I said, when I even go back to the response video, like, there's a conflation that he did with the C word. And again, I'm mixed. I'm Afro-Latina. My dad's Hispanic, mestizo. My mom's Black. So he conflated C word, because it's a conflation two N-words, one in English, one meant for one Black woman, and one N-word in Spanish. And that I took very personal because those are the C word, the usage of the C word, and those N-words have two completely purposes usage.
She's getting... Okay, so for those that don't know, after the video came out where Soulbunni calls Shark racial slur multiple times, Shark responded by referring to her as a word that I literally could not believe he said at the time. But, like, if she wants to try to take the position that it's okay for her as a Black woman to call him the C slur, then... Why can't he call her that? Like, it seems like at this point, you don't get to pull the race card now. Like, she's mad that she can't pull the race card on Shark. She's trying to say that, like, Shark insulting her with a variant of the N-word is equivalent to Soulbunni coming out of nowhere and making a video calling Shark the C slur, when Shark was responding to her, calling him a slur. So this is literally the equivalent of, oh, it's really bad. He hit me. Oh, he hit you? Oh my God, that's horrible. Yeah, let me look at the footage of what happened. Oh, wait, you hit him first. Yeah, but he hit me harder. Yeah, but you hit him first. Yeah, but his hitting me was worse, so he should get in trouble. Like, that's essentially the interaction that's happening here.
And meanings that are not equivalent at all. And I can get why he felt the way he did. So let me put it this way. I can get why at that point, especially when he like filmed it and like he had went through people that I already felt that escalated the situation that I wouldn't co-sign, that I was getting blamed for, as if like I had them like my goons, like a mafia leader, to go like sick my pit bulls.
Well, I'm not trying to say anything about
No,
being
I'm not saying you
popular.
are,
I'm just
but
trying to say like
I'm not
mean,
saying
your
you
video
are, but
has
that was how
had
people
a
were
lot of
moving.
reach, and so there's a couple things here. Like, your video ended up having a lot of reach, which is always something a video can do, even intentional or not. That's definitely something a video can go well beyond your
I lost control of what that was doing. Like I didn't expect the clip to even like explode so fast, like within the same day of it being uploaded. So it like blew up. Like, and again, like this, it would have never blown up to the degree that it did if that clip didn't circulate, because as we all...
Bullshit. These people are all massive clout farmers. The reason why they do nothing at this point other than make hit pieces is because there is unironically a larger market among tankies on the left to consume hate content on Debate Bros streamers than there is to watch content about actual leftist politics. I'm not even kidding. Among the audience of people online right now watching any form of progressive content, there is more of an audience for tanky shit and woke scold shit than there is for like Debate Bros or anything like that, or any form of like actual just political commentary. It's why they're not doing any more political commentary. Or when they do political commentary, they have to make it look like a hit piece. It's like how Foreign Man in a Foreign Land only spends like 30% of his video on the hit piece. The rest of it's just unrelated ramblings. But that unrelated ramblings would have gotten no views and no one would have cared if he didn't make it look like it was going to all be a hit piece on Vosh and Keffels. And he's since changed the thumbnails so that it's Colleen Ballinger and Taylor Swift in the thumbnail now, so he's pussied out. These people are all cowards. They're just trying to get the fast at this moment clickbait. Noah Samson did the same. And if they get too much shit for it, you know what they'll do? They'll change the title. They'll change the thumbnail. Or they'll, in the case of Noah Samson, they'll take the video down for like a month until everybody forgets about how full of lies and how bad the video is, and they'll put it back up again.
I'll know whether
they're drama
you like or
farmers.
not, you like a video or dislike it, like that pushes it. If you
Well,
argue,
sure,
in the
but
comments,
also like
that's
you gotta
gonna push
admit
it,
like
so-
that clip was almost like designed. Like that's an eye
It
catcher.
wasn't
That's a zinger,
designed,
right?
dude. That was like a very candid moment. That
But that's real. Even you can acknowledge it was
It's
harsh,
canon.
right? Like it was really harsh, right? Like
It's
you were slamming him pretty hard, and that's
I
definitely
was
gonna
being
get
very
some eyes,
candid
right?
with myself, and it wasn't about getting eyes. It was just me standing on how I felt, and because again, the video is a purging. That video was designed as the end of me ever discussing in any video format about, like even like on my YouTube, on my content I make like about that. That was like me getting out all how I felt and what I observed over this time,
No.
and I laid it out, whether good editing or not, or some parts I probably would have done differently. That's what the video was for. It wasn't to, I didn't like that book, so that's where it goes. Like I said, like that was really a canon moment for me in there, because I was contemplating, do I even include that part? Because
How many of these like lie-filled scripted hit pieces do we have to go through with them using the excuse of this was just a venting video when confronted on the fact that they're just maliciously trying to spread lies for the sake of career destruction? How many times can they make these viral videos of theirs and still claim they were just doing it to vent and not for the clout or to farm the drama?
I know that in my content I don't even like, I usually have this ASMR approach, and I usually don't like break character and like have like a very like super stern tone. So it wasn't already like really with the way I was like designing my channel, the way to be like kind of like this art ASMR approach to me discussing how I personally, my perspectives on racism, etc. Whatnot.
Fair.
So,
But I
yeah.
guess what I'm trying to say is like the video to me, like just gonna be 100% real. You had Keffels, Vosh, Shark. I think that was all three. Let me see. Maybe in the thumbnail.
And Merrick.
And Merrick. So you know, a lot of people who let's just say are hot buttons on Twitter specifically. It seems to me like, if we're being honest here, like you were definitely trying to reach outside of your circle with that one. I feel like you got to be honest about that, right? Like if you're putting the face of like 4 controversial people on the cover of a video, like
Good job, Demon Mama. You're
that's what
calling
we
it
call in the
out.
business. You know, you're making a thumbnail. You're making a catchy thumbnail,
know,
arguably even clickbait. Like that's.
I
Like,
wouldn't say clickbait, but I know that it would definitely potentially reach.
but you're
folks.
reaching for an audience still, right? Like
And-
I can admit that I do that in all my videos. Like
We'll
all
say
my
this,
videos.
like,
I'm an
I-
entertainer, so you
Yeah,
know.
but I'll say this. Like, I thought when they would have seen it, it'd have been like 3 months later because of how small my channel was. I had no idea it would ever do anything. I thought it'd never get anywhere to Twitter discourse. Like, that's because again, like,
It was all mostly pertaining to Twitter discourse, right? So
Let me see.
most of the topics
No.
on there were tied to
some
Twitter
parts,
discourse in
some,
some way or
some
another.
parts was tied to stuff. There was still like YouTube segments. There was at least a handful of YouTube stuff. So there was probably 60% of Twitter and 40% YouTube, because it's definitely a mixture. 'Cause I know my own video for sure, the way I even approached it, because it was very much like even the way I went about like things, like I explained the traits and the behaviors, and then I used examples, and that's kind of how each chapter was structured. So when it comes to the figures in the thumbnail, that wasn't just like,
That's actually called priming the narrative. Basically, if you've watched the Soulbunni video, what she actually does is like sets up how you should interpret a certain clip and then plays the clip. She's trying to describe that as, first I explain their behaviors and then I show evidence. It's like, no, you try to build a narrative about how Shark has quote-unquote sea slur vibes and is like a adjacent to Candace Owens, and you make that argument, and then you like show a bunch of out of context clips. In the case of Shark, I don't think Soulbunni even provided any evidence, really. Like, not evidence of anything that was like actually bad. Not evidence of anything that anyone wouldn't like readily stand by if confronted on it, you know? Like, nothing controversial.
like obviously I knew me even criticizing or even like using them as examples was going to obviously get reach, and people are going to see it and watch that. And
Like, unironically, something that Shark's done that really impresses me is that, like, he's been doing this for a hot minute, but he has not gotten into any serious drama outside of this. He's gotten harassed by these people, obviously, but, like, he's never said or done anything that's got him in really hot water. Like, they literally only came after him because his existence needed to be recognized by this community to continue like calling the debate sphere racist, I guess. Like, that's really the only vibe that I can get from it. They were like, okay, so we can't keep saying that the Debate Bros streamers don't listen to black people anymore. So now we need to basically appropriate the very same arguments that they've been making for a while now and say that actually this particular black person, this particular trans person are not worth listening to and are actually really, really bad people, are actually just like Candace Owens. They're that bad, you know? Like, that's the point she was trying to make in her video, and it's very dishonest, it's very scummy, and it's racist, and it's also transphobic towards Keffals.
Public potential people in those spaces. That's a given. But, you know,
So I mean, it sounds like the answer is like yeah, you did know that it was going to reach beyond your space. That it wasn't just
that's
it wasn't
100%,
just
that's a
intended.
given.
Like, well, yeah,
Well, of course,
but I mean,
it wasn't like a tea
I know,
party.
you were kind of
with
backing
my
off.
friends.
You were kind of. I'm not trying to grill your opinion or anything. It was just it kind of sounded like you weren't.
I misinterpreted what you were like.
Okay,
implying, but
that's
I get
fair.
what you mean now.
It's
That's fine.
you know like
a party for friends video at all. Like I knew that,
I feel like if you were going to do that type of thing, like you could post a rant that you put in a group chat or something, which would be a totally different thing. If this was like a you know, you ranted in a video to a group chat, but this was a public facing video. You made a thumbnail that was super eye catching. It definitely went well beyond just like, you know, a rant.
Anything
to your
that
friends.
well, again, like, and also like how I'm going back to like I was extra small, so I had never thought it ever reached outside of fans that would engage with it on both sides of things. So like again, like I was coming from this place where no one was ever playing my video that was from that space, or either space. Like it wasn't. I was just like Twitter is what blew up the video. Like Twitter, again, like
that'll happen too.
Yeah, so that's
Twitter
100%.
tends to like, you know, Twitter always has a magnifying effect for anything dramatic and also anything that's snappy. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like, yeah, your channel is small. You're, you know, fairly new to content creation. I'm not trying to like, I don't know, slam you for anything like that.
No, I don't
not to change not to even change the topic, but on this, like, do you ever feel like it's this whole thing has just become an interpersonal hurtful war of personalities? Because that's what like when I opened this video, before I even watched the Foreign Man and a Foreign Land video.
Exactly what it is.
At the beginning of the stream, you know, one of the things I was talking about, I did this big long preamble talking about how exhausting it is as a creator and as somebody who spends time in these spaces. Like, I get tired of the telephone game with everybody. I get tired of feeling like my brain just shuts off whenever I read something because I don't believe anybody anymore because they all just say bullshit. And I worry that, like, I mean, there's so much stuff. Like right now, it's like this Keffals thing. And again, the way I feel about it is like, I think that most of the shit that gets said about Keffals is completely insane. Like, it's so far from the truth. It's so much of a game of telephone. And that's not to say that there aren't things to criticize Keffals on. I have done so. I've done videos, multiple, criticizing Keffals. Even some of my videos where I was positively agreeing with Keffals, I ended up working in a lot of critiques. You know, I'm not exactly like a Keffals super fan or anything like that. But I've known Keffals for a while. And I just feel like, I don't know, it sometimes feels like there's this, I don't know how to describe it. Like,
I do like how Demon Mama takes away any ability for Soulbunni to try to claim you're just defending your friend. Because Demon Mama comes off as indifferent to the criticism right now and more concerned about the fact that the criticism seems to be coming from a dishonest place, which I think is a pretty good perspective to take to make it so as that you can't be attacked by these people after the fact. It's really hard to tell whether or not these are fans showing themselves off on stream or these are just random people happening to stop here.
There's just this, there's an incentive to turn all these interpersonal disagreements, things that are like, may or may not be political in nature, but to turn them into something so much more. Do you ever worry that that's like something that you're getting pulled into? Because it's something that I've had to like actively push back against. And I also recognize that I don't make a lot of friends by being like, when I tell people like, hey, I think you're fucking losing it over this and you probably need to cool down a little bit. You ever feel like it's like going out of control?
Sorry. With me, like, even like with my own video, like I made my own critiques that I felt very valid, and I wouldn't put in a video if I didn't feel like this wasn't like a personality. This was actually genuine, like things I have genuine critiques on. But as someone that when I made that video, I even just saw like how some people just like, I had to tell a couple folks like, hey, can you please stop replying? I see every time you reply to this person, I get the notification, and it's honestly annoying me. So I do see like kind of like there's some people that follow me. I wish I had the courage just to go and block them. But if I did, I feel like they'd go and like rant about me blocking them because it's just like I made the video, but it was supposed to be.
Eve, did I not say the other day that these people are all hostages to their own fans? They are all literally hostages to their own fucking fans. I said this in my coverage the day before yesterday of the during my coverage of Keffals' video. She just let slip There are tons of people in her audience she would honestly like to block, but she knows they would have fucking mental breakdowns on Twitter over it. Those are the types that are like being coddled in these spaces. That's like the mindset that they're allowing, and they know that that's the mindset they're allowing to sort of fester in their spaces, and they don't care because it's all about just enforcing their will on as many people as possible, and as many people as possible accepting it.
Purging. So it's just kind of.
When you say purging, you mean just kind of like getting it out of your system?
Yes, it's the whole point of why like my video was structured the way it was. I'm sorry. Do you have like? I need to grab my hormone.
Yeah, if you need a break, if you need a moment, just go right ahead.
I just took my hormones right now, but I was looking for my phone. I took care of that. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Sorry,
yeah.
it was when you moved away from the mic. It was like I'm getting a little bit of back and forth. If you move away from the mic, I lose audio on you, so I couldn't hear everything you said there. But that's fine. It's no big deal.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
So
like,
Are hormones injected most of the time, chat? Because most cis people that I know who take hormones inject that shit. But I know that there's pills, right? There's a pill form, isn't there? Wait, no, that makes no fucking sense. Of course there wouldn't be a pill form. Why would I think there'd be a pill form? I take pills? Okay, maybe there are... Okay, apparently there is a pill form. There's pills and shots. Okay, I'm curious. Why would one take the shot over the pill? I'm curious. Trans people in chat, why would you want the gel, the shot, or the pill? Or, like, what's the best? And what would you not want? Shot works faster. That makes sense, because you're injecting yourself, right? Interesting. Okay. That's no doubt going to become information that'll become handy during conversations about trans rights, because as much as I know a lot about policy and the science, I actually don't know a lot about, like, the nitty-gritty. Like, I've got a lot of trans friends, but I've never really asked them, like, so, what are the hormones that you take even called? Like, I don't even know stuff as basic as that. I just know there is estrogen and there is testosterone. And I'm sure there's some other stuff, too.
What I'm trying to say, like,
there's also hormone blockers.
That's me saying, like, I agree with you that in some cases, I'm not gonna write them all like that, but there's definitely a space on Twitter that operates like that. That I don't like their stuff. I don't retweet their stuff. I just skip by it on Twitter because it's just like.
I mean, I get like in this video, even in this foreign man in a foreign land video.
Can you stop being queer coded for like 5 minutes? Like, wait, hold on. I would actually argue that it's more pussy shit, like not knowing what your identity is, to be too afraid to ask trans or gay people, like, things about being trans or gay or whatever, because you're too afraid of looking gay. Like, what? That's stupid.
I saw what I would consider to be a pretty out of the ordinary level of like what I would call like backpatting and wagon circling. Like, I mean, I think Jesse Gender, not to like name names, but I think Jesse Gender like did a big thread, which was like, this is a foreign man in a foreign land appreciation thread. Let's like shout him out right after like retweeting the video, promoting this video. And honestly, I think this video was really bad. I think this video is like that if anyone was being honest with themselves, they would acknowledge that like his conclusion that like marginalized people aren't given any wiggle room, that they're not allowed to make mistakes, and that they're torn apart limb from limb, which is the conclusion of the video, but the rest of the video is basically making out Keffals to be an incredibly harmful person with very little evidence played. Like, I think that that's like repugnant, and I think that...
Well, to be fair, he did show evidence. She said she liked noodles and that they're tasty. I mean, he did show evidence. The evidence is that she likes noodles.
Even people in your friend group should be willing to go, man, that's fucking bullshit.
And as Bad Bunny explained in a conversation on stream with Soulbunni, crazy they collabed, Bad Bunny described it as the "I'm not touching you" form of racism. Like you know the game of "I'm not touching you, like you would do with like your sibling in the car or whatever, where you'd like have your finger like an inch away from their face. They're trying to claim that Keffals is doing "I'm not touching you" racism. And I guess the narrative is that she's not being racist, but they're specifically supposed to take the message as racist.
But I didn't see that happening. In fact, I saw the opposite. I saw an abnormal amount of like going out of their way to promote this video, to be like, hey, let's build up, you know, let's gas this the fuck up. And I go, man, like, doesn't it, when this is all combined with all of the big statements about politics and the caring about marginalized people, but then a video that's just so self-contradictory and also, in my opinion, very manipulative in the way that it talks about Keffals and also way overstates harm. Like, I mean, he described, and I quote, like, Keffals did
Well, I saw the
cause
examples.
pain at scale. But that's
saw the
just not true.
examples.
It's just
Some of them
false. Like, when are we going to draw the
care.
line and say, hey, dude, you're fucking lying now. You're just not telling the truth anymore.
So I'll say this.
And also, it's hypocritical, right? So, like, where is this? Why is there so much?
Demon Mom is doing well.
What's it almost seems to me like there's a bunch of people who have it who really don't like Keffals, and they're basically willing to promote whatever hurts Keffals, even if it's something that's like blatantly contradictory. And do you ever get worried that that's like a toxic space, and that like there's problematic behaviors in that type of?
1 second.
Yeah.
Because you said a lot.
Sure,
there.
sorry, I know.
Yeah.
I'm 6 hours in. I can get a little rambly, and I apologize.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to like, keep up with every point.
Sure,
so,
sure.
Like, able to, like,
I admired
So, like,
Demon
pretty much-
Mama's like stream marathoning ability.
I will say. My example.
She streams for a long ass time.
I actually explain them to a degree. So because I can't just throw something out and expect people, unless like people just have their own personal lives. But I explain my personal. Like, I'd show a clip and I'd go into the problem. Because even like mine was my personal critique is the say your name situation, the hashtag say your name discourse. that
Oh
I, as
boy,
one
here
person,
we
is very,
go.
Not like. I didn't appreciate how that was handled as a disc. It wasn't just a Keffals thing, but it was like how a whole community of folks. Not even. It's not even just in that. It was like there was people that were just like whole orgs that were using hashtag say your name that are not like connected to anyone on any leftist online spaces. So yeah, I have because I only want to speak for myself. And as far as with this video, you know, like there's because I saw your whole most like 90% of your reaction to the video, and there's some things that I don't have the same opinion as you, but that's why I'm always gonna say like you can have your opinion.
But you can understand where my frustration comes from, right?
I can understand where you're
Check
coming
your
from.
I feel like I
Rose
laid out my
Spicy
arguments pretty
Town.
well, and to me, that like again, I don't mean to interrupt you here or anything.
Funny Valentine watches Xanderhal. Is Funny Valentine like a YouTuber or a streamer or something? Or are they like a niche internet micro celebrity? A JoJo villain. Oh, okay. You're memeing me. God damn it. Goddamn anime fans.
But
I get your
to me,
logic,
this,
though.
This
Like, I'm
video
not
is
saying I
pretty
don't get it.
emblematic of the type of behavior I'm talking about, which is basically it's this Machiavellian approach of being willing to basically lob any accusation while out of one side of your mouth saying, marginalized people don't catch any breaks, and every mistake they make gets jumped on by the right and the left, and nobody gives marginalized people of any stripes any room to grow or to exist as a person. You fail once and sometimes your entire life ends. And then at the same time, make a video that's basically taking a giant spear and aiming it at Keffals on what I would consider to be pretty, it doesn't live up to that statement, does it? Doesn't that seem like, I don't know, do you see where I'm coming from? It seems emblematic of what I'm talking about in these spaces, where there's
You know what's crazy? The woke scolds have actually gotten tamer by necessity since like 2019, 2020, and 2021. They were way worse at keeping the mask on about what horrible human beings they are back in the day and how like overly sensitive they are. I remember I got canceled a while back, like back in 2019, for being cis and talking about trans issues. I had like literally hundreds of anime profile picture trans girls on Twitter demanding that I stop talking about trans issues. Yeah, like it was literally like hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of like just trans girls on Twitter with anime profile pictures demanding, mostly pickers too, demanding that I as a cis man stop talking about trans rights. Like yeah, that is how like over the top extreme these people used to be back in the day, but they've gotten better at sort of pretending like they're arguing from a good place.
there's like this overstatement of harm. There is this exaggeration in the way people talk hurtfulness.
I can say there's parts that he probably should have went in more detail, like more length and explanations on. I can say that. But you know, like you have your opinion. I see.
She'll be online
I get
later.
your logic completely. I get it completely.
Do you really think like just on a personal level, totally personal, do you really think that it's accurate to say that like Keffals has caused pain at scale? Do you really think that's an accurate thing to say?
I'm gonna be honest. When I heard him say that, I didn't actually get what it implied 100%. Like I didn't get with it. So if you can break that down to me right
I
now,
mean,
I can give
at
you
least the way
honest.
I understood it. Now I can't be in his mind, but usually when somebody says pain at scale, that means caused an incredible amount of pain. Like pain at scale is a turn of phrase that generally means like a huge amount of damage. It's saying like pain at scale is like you've done you've caused a lot of pain. And even if I think about all the things, and trust me, there have been some moments I've literally spoken to Keffals about shit that fights that Keffals has gotten in person to person. I said, what the fuck are you doing? But I don't think any of the fights Keffals has been in would, in my mind, qualify as pain at scale, especially with like images of 9/11. And especially in the context of everything that happened to Keffals. I feel like this is like just
Making fun
I don't
of
know,
her
do you
for
really
getting
agree with that type of
swatted.
statement?
Not 100%. I can say that, not 100%. Because
Alright.
I don't think
That's fair.
it's to the extreme. Yeah, I don't think it's to the point where I could say Kefel's divisive, and I have my
Sure,
own reasons
but-
why. But I wouldn't say that I agree to 100% that she's like this boogie woman that like. It's just there's just things that
She's just kind of walking it back. She's trying to have like the most soft take now compared to her videos, because nothing she says here is actually going to benefit her. She just needs to get out of this looking like a soft ooh woo good little lefty, right? It's the videos where she gets to do the whole like mask off, like hit piece, lies, misinformation, career assassination type stuff, you know?
I guess to us in the Black community and certain folks that we, and again, like I'm not the one saying like she's the worst person ever.
Yeah.
Like
The subtle implication once again that she is like a representation of like this overwhelming like group of Black people in the leftist space that have a problem with like debate bro streamers because they're supposedly racist.
this is me speaking personally. Like I know she's pretty divisive. Like the say your name thing was very divisive. Like that definitely like pissed off a lot of people that they're not even in the leftist space on Twitter. Like
I'm going to be completely honest. I may have missed her statement on the say your name thing. I remember, I mean, I talked about that, but I talked about it with regard to, I think a thread that Jesse Gender wrote. And I kind of, what did Keffel say about say her name?
So in my own video, because that's where I focus on. That's why I will like, I have, like, I don't know, like I don't fully care about zodiacs. Like I'm a Taurus, but it's
Sure,
like,
sure.
we're very
What?
I guess like if I'm gonna like put like something out, I want to have all my T's lined up so like nothing can get misconstrued. Like so with my own critiques, like I said with the say your name thing, like she essentially was fine with co-opting it and had her reasons of something. And like if you can go to my own video to like see exactly, because I included the screenshots of what she actually said.
Sure.
So that's why I'm gonna say it in a vague way because I don't want to like I don't want to like say anything incorrectly. But it essentially was her, like her and it wasn't just her, but other folks. Basically like mad that not want to say mad's not the right word, but they were definitely wanting to co-opt and the say your name hashtag and being insensitive when folks were explaining like that took their time to explain why it's not okay to co-opt this movement that Black women, because again like for those that don't know, say your name thing, it's because of the Black Lives Matter movement was solely focusing on men or 90% of the time. You know, there was a lack of representation for the harm that Black women and Black femmes experience because they also use her name for Black trans women as well.
All right, here we go. She's going to defend the claim that using hashtag say her name to bring awareness to the hate crime murder of a trans child is white people colonizing the hashtag.
Well, true, but I mean,
so it was 100% the whole aspect of the type of attitude and tone
I
of
thought
being so okay with co-opting something that like as outsiders have no dictation of who gets to use what when it wasn't a space that was made for them or where it was made from. This was completely for a whole movement for Black and femmes that were underrepresented. And
do you think
it's like kind of like how the Black squares in 2020 when people were sharing those with hashtag Black Lives Matter, it was clogging up and missing. It was covering a lot of things that Black folks were posting at that time, and it was just completely counterproductive.
Well,
to what
I mean, I do
the
think
Black
that's a
Lives-
little bit of a different thing. I mean, the black
Well,
squares
that's essentially what we're trying to prevent as what the meant of hashtags of
I
Black
guess
Lives
here's what
Matter.
I'll
And
ask you on this
if
particular
people, you
subject.
see the point I'm trying to make as far as if you
Well,
don't
no,
disagree with
I
it.
should be clear. I completely understand the concern of co-opting. I mean, God, every single year that I've streamed, I've had to have conversations about, cops at Pride, the attempt to purge kink from Pride, the attempt to clean up Pride for corporate advertisers. I think that's a real concern. But do you think it's possible that, like,
I like what they do at places in Seattle. Me, Demon Mama, and Vosh and Doe and everybody, like we all as a big group went shooting at the range a few weeks back, and afterwards we went out and we got dinner, and we got at a restaurant that's like, it's not a gay bar or anything like that, but it's like a LGBT restaurant, right? Like, I don't really know what to call it because there's nothing like this anywhere I've grown up. Like, I grew up in Florida. Okay, this is like, there was always either there was gay bars and that's it, you know, like that's either a gay bar. I never heard of like a LGBT restaurant, you know. So apparently they're pretty common though, but it was pretty cool. And it's not like there's nothing NSFW going on, but it's like they have like trivia. And it's like drag trivia night, stuff like that. And they card you at the door. Despite the fact there's no like NSFW stuff going on in there, they card you at the door. And I have a feeling that's because they don't want to get into any shit for a parent bringing their kid there for some chicken strips and like getting like causing drama because somebody in drag is like in the background while the kid is like sitting at the table eating chicken strips, and some conservative psycho snaps a picture at like the perfect angle with like the fucking lens angular zoom that Peter Jackson used to get the perspective illusion that he used for Gandalf and the Hobbits to make it look like something's going on. Like I'm pretty sure they just don't want that shit to happen, so they just card you at the door and they don't let kids in. You have to be like 21 years or older to go in. So yeah, I don't like that has to happen, but I feel like that's a good policy to undertake in environments where you just want to be able to do a pride celebration that doesn't necessarily, even if it's not going to be like not safe for work, it doesn't need to necessarily be not safe for work, right? It's unfortunate that like, okay, so the point that Demon Mama made, and I agree with it, is that part of Pride is not just celebrating queer pride. Part of Pride is also celebrating not being ashamed of yourself. Like even if you're like sort of a outlier within the sexual community, for lack of a better term, right? Like leather, BDSM, bondage, just like things like that are like furries, stuff like that are very commonly also involved in pride events, because these are groups that are oftentimes also kind of shit upon, and the idea is that you aren't ashamed at pride, right? And so the argument that a bunch of people are making is that things such as leather, bondage, and BDSM should essentially be completely like sanitized out of pride entirely, essentially only relegated to very specific spaces. And outside of that should be looked down upon like heavily in the LGBT community. Demon Mama doesn't agree with that because that literally is the opposite of pride by definition. But I know she also agrees that there's definitely a problem with, like, you wouldn't want, for example, a kid to be at a strip club, but at the same time, there's a lot of conservative, what's it called, moral panic creating around this stuff.
The say her name thing came from a actual genuine place of severe grief about a young trans person who was killed. Because I mean, to me, like,
I don't deny that at all. But
well, it seems using the word co-opt is, and I'm not. I just want to get this out here real quick. It's like using the term co-opt. Generally, when that's termed, like the term co-opt generally implies, and this is just the way that it's used. That's what the term means. Is generally it implies somebody intentionally going out of their way to take something over to use it for their own ends. Like, for example, Burger King, putting their profile to a black square as basically a free advertisement riding off the back of a social movement that clogs up the actual thing. But
co-opting can also be as simple as co-opting AVE. That's like one of the biggest and easiest examples for people in the black community is people don't even realize the origin of some of these words and they just casually use them. And
sure.
So that's
I would say that's a little bit of a different type of co-opting, right? Like that's like we're talking about a very different phenomenon.
There's degrees to co-opting. There's degrees.
Well, but it's a different type, right? Like people co-opting language like that is a little bit different than what we're talking about, like a hashtag movement.
Well, isn't like hashtag part of like the language because they have meaning
to a certain degree, but also
this
like
is so terminally online.
Like say her name is fairly intuitive. Like, it's a fairly intuitive thing, right? My point is I don't want to like. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Reminder: these people live on the internet. They don't talk about any actual policy or real-world political events because they live on the internet. The only events that matter to them are events that happen on the internet.
I'm trying to make this like hard to talk.
Their biggest concern this week is a hashtag, while your biggest concern this week is like a new bill that might get passed. That's the big difference.
Let me go off on other things. What I'm trying to say is, do you think it's possible that like that there was absolutely no ill intent whatsoever, like not even, and that perhaps it wasn't even a co-opting at all. It was just people using the same three words for another thing that they cared about. Because if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe initially that say her name was for missing Indigenous women, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I don't think
they have their own hashtag. And that's like a given thing. And that's also when people that run the talking point, they're speaking for Indigenous people.
I'm not trying to speak for Indigenous people. What I'm trying to say is
that
at least myself, like, what I would say is from my
people
perspective.
That were using that type of argument were a lot of non-Indigenous people running and saying that.
So, okay, she's making this argument on a set of logical bounds that this hashtag belongs to black people. Demon Mama replies, well, if you use that logic, it actually belongs to indigenous people. And then Soulbunni's response is, well, you're not indigenous, so you're kind of speaking for them, so we can't really say, right? It's like it's literally just a contest to try to like out-woke you. Like, you are invalidated because of your identity.
Because at the end of the day, like, co-opting goes way back, even way before co-opting, sorry, say your name goes way back, way before even Sandra Bland.
Okay.
This
right.
is like, this
Yeah, that's what I
goes
was talking
years
about.
back, even before, like, because I saw the type of articles they were trying to release. I'm like, there were many Black women's years before those articles with these hashtags were used for.
I agree with you. What I'm trying to say is that I don't, at least from my perspective, I would not call it
have MMIW, missing murdered, MMIW. I'm trying to.
Yeah, missing and murdered indigenous women, MMIW.
Yeah.
But that's true. But that's not. But I mean, those things aren't exclusive to one another. Like, there's all kinds of
Indigenous women
overlap.
not using
What I'm
their
trying to
name.
say is that
Indigenous
I
women.
would not describe. You know,
To me, that's like a straw man because.
well,
it's
hold on
like,
a second.
you
Hold on.
don't-
We're getting ahead of ourselves now. Hold on a second. What I'm trying to say here is, and I gotta get my point out because I want to make sure that this is going in like a direction that's productive. Which is to say, I wouldn't call it co-opting if Black women.
Initially.
I wouldn't call it
Initially.
co-opting. Hold on. I wouldn't call it co-opting if Black women also used say her name, and also indigenous people used say her name at various points in history. I would consider that an evolution or the using of a similar phrase. I wouldn't consider that co-opting. And I think that's the position that a lot of people are coming from, which is to say that it feels. I think a lot of people feel like there is an unnecessary policing that's happening when a tragedy happens and people come up with a hashtag, and then we're trying to say this is co-option or something, when I don't think that it's co-option. I think it's just a hashtag that's being used for a perhaps similar, perhaps different purpose, but ultimately to deal with a severe tragedy. You see what I mean? Like, I wouldn't like.
Can't
it
argue
wouldn't
with
occur to my
someone
mind
this
to ever criticize, like, if
dishonestly
if
motivated.
a Black trans woman was killed and then people were using say her name. I think it would be. I wouldn't imagine it would be productive, empathetic, or useful to go, hey, you're co-opting this from missing indigenous women. You see what I mean? So I think a lot of people
I see
interpret
what
it
your point
like
you're
people
trying to
going
make,
after
but that was
that.
never my argument. So that was never my argument. The problem lies is because no one, we get why people did it and whatnot. It's how they moved afterwards when Black people took the time to explain. So, because at the end of the day, you don't see indigenous people, you say their name.
Remember, guys, once again, the heavy generalization when Black people took the time to explain. The same happens with woke scolds who are trans that are like heavily on the accusation that you're transphobic. When trans people tried to explain, they use this extremely generalized language to essentially imply that you're like we're basically just this group of like cishet straight white guys who are just yucking it up about slurs and shit over here. And not taking politics seriously like they do. And then the reason they say it like that is to imply that they're the group of marginalized people that we just won't listen to, right?
Her name. That's just not the case.
I disagree with that. I actually,
But,
people are sending
but
links
also-
to this right now in
but
chat.
also-
I
and
mean,
they
I
can
looked into
send
that
them,
too.
but-
Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't know that claim is
But at the end
accurate.
of the day, it's not a thing that like indigenous women are using at a high number, if they even are. And it's not something I don't see Black people policing from indigenous people even using.
Well,
But it
right,
is a
I
Black
know, but
slogan. So
I
that's
wouldn't
what-
even say that people were using,
my
like-
my stance in Black people's problem was when we did explain, because we got why. We get why, and we get it was from a
She's doing it
an
again,
innocent
by the
place.
way.
We get that, because even like orgs apologized.
Well, sure,
for
but I mean,
not
orgs will
understanding,
apologize for all
but-
kinds of things, right? They apologize for.
But rightfully so. But rightfully so, as a Black person, we see, especially a Black femme, but it's how people responded to that word.
How many times have you heard her say, as a Black person, as a Black femme, like how many times have you heard her restate her identity before an argument as if that matters to the argument?
Do you think that that's like a productive use of people's time?
This is where I'm standing. Is it wasn't never initially how it was used and where it's placed. It's how they moved after they were explained, and that's the core problem that Black people have. That's the core problem Black femmes have. That's the problem. When I shared it.
Generalizing. Yes, Black people are a monolith, and I'm their representative. That's what Soulbunni wants you to think.
On Instagram with just folks locally, just Black people locally in my orgs and whatnot, they definitely all got in instantly how that is problematic. So this is again, like for those that are like being like intense when people are being, they have a genuine place where they came from when initially, but when you get corrected on things and you just dig your heels in,
Well,
that's my colonizer type of behavior.
I don't
and that
know.
was the language I used in my video.
I hear you, but at
that's
the
the
same
language
time-
I used in my actual video that I stand on.
I hear you, but
you
also
don't
at
have
the
to
same
agree
time,
with
like,
it, but
I mean, I don't 100% agree. I think
you
that,
don't,
like,
and I don't 100% agree with you either.
I
Again,
know
like,
that.
I'm Black,
What-
and I'm with them. And
and
when it
I'm-
comes to,
and I'm
like, again,
trans.
like, it becomes, I'm
She
sorry, 'cause,
just did
like,
it again.
I need to, like, I'm almost finished with my thought, because you said a lot before.
Sure, that's fine.
I got to speak. So,
We both said a lot.
yeah. This is a weird thing, where it's like, because it's like essentially like a boundary, or like that Black femmes and whether like how
Keep
non-Black
saying
people
it.
feel, it's really not your place. It's not your place. when we educate y'all about it, that was the moment we get.
When we educate y'all about it, like there's this like implication that black people are a monolith and she is their representative. She so badly wants to make this look like it's a literal conflict between white people and this like big group of black people saying you're racist, what you're doing is racist and hurting us, when in reality it's just like this extremely terminally online schizosphere that has been obsessing over this group of content creators for literal years now.
Get it? But for the Pacific people, for those that chose to dig their heels in and start talking back and started having, entitlement, because that's what I talk essentially. When people that feel entitled to say your name, that's where, you got to twist it.
Well,
that's where,
okay,
and
but
that's exactly how black people felt. Even just like I said, even
I feel like we're getting...
I brought it to Instagram to just local black folks, and they all like a lot of them responded, and like
well, that's fine. That's
so
great.
That's
fine.
where I'm at.
The problem that I'm having.
I actually like. I actually can't stand people like this, who like who genuinely can't go one sentence without talking about their identity or someone else's identity. Like these people are actual fucking parodies walking on two legs. Like how do you become the actual embodiment of every negative stereotype the right has ever invented about the left? Like you saw those negative stereotypes in like Steven Crowder videos and were like, I want to be that. Like the SJW caricature came to life in 2021.
Arguments? I'm almost
okay.
Because
Sure.
like the only people that I'm seeing that are immediately their response to use indigenous people indigenous people used it essentially, whether that's true or not, was just on Twitter.
Well, it is
That
true. I mean, that's just a simple matter of truth. Like that hashtag.
But in the way that they used it was in a malicious intent to go be entitled to go essentially like.
They used the hashtag say her name hashtag to bring attention to the murder of a 16-year-old trans girl as a what? To antagonize what?
I feel like
I brought it to Instagram to just local black folks, and they all like a lot of them responded, and like
well, that's fine. That's great.
That's
fine.
where I'm at.
The problem that I'm having,
like the arguments, I'm almost because
sure.
like the only people that I'm seeing that are immediately their response to use indigenous people indigenous people used it essentially, whether that's true or not, was just on Twitter.
Well, it is
That
true.
not.
I mean, that's just a simple matter of truth. Like that hashtag.
But in the way that they used it was in a malicious intent to go be entitled to go. Essentially, like I said in my own video, colonize say your name, and that was the stuff that we saw, and that's why we responded.
This is where I start to disagree with you, and this is
I was disagreeing with you earlier, but it's okay.
Well, wait, hold on, but you had your turn to talk, so I want to say my thing now too. There's a couple of portions here where I feel like we're leaving the realm of productive political conversation, where we leave the realm of reasonable political discussion. So, like for example, when you say things like colonize,
I don't know. I brought it to Instagram.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You gotta let me speak. When you say something like colonizing a hashtag, we've moved beyond. We've moved out of the realm of you sort of doing an analysis and saying, hey, this is kind of, we got to be careful about these hashtags. First of all, there are some basic facts about hashtags. Obviously, hashtags are, anybody can slap them on any post that you want. It's a problem with hashtags generally. And obviously, with a three-word phrase, there is no ownership that can be had. No org can do that. I don't even think you'd want an org to do that. In the same way you wouldn't want a single org to own the rights to Black Lives Matter or any, social media thing. Ownership of something like that, to me, is it's not a simple thing. You can't just say somebody owns it or who gets to say. Like, I think a case can be made that people misuse it or whatever, but that's a little bit different than claiming ownership. And of course, when you start to say something like white people were colonized and they had been educated, there is I don't know if that's like, the language starts to reach to the point where I feel like we're talking about different things now, where now you're alleging things that I don't think are accurate to what actually happened. Like when you saying that somebody colonized a hashtag, that's very strong language to use, but I just don't think that's accurate. And also if you take just a moment and step back to just look at what you're talking about people expressing grief at a dead child. I feel like calling that colonization is actually like it's not just insensitive, it also just shoots your own point in the foot because it's not productive. Like
it's downright
calling
evil.
That colonization is like, to me, it's unproductive. It's like, it's not even making your own point well. Like,
well, I am, but you can have your stance. But I'm going to say this because I feel like you're splitting hairs.
We're talking about the subject.
This surpasses Twitter. Because like I said, initially, yeah, but the colonization, because that's the right language. It's exactly what it is. It's the fact that when we...
Earlier you said that you could understand that people were using it out...
Specifically initially. That's what I've said more.
That hashtag never even got that big, to be fair, this time around. It was a grand total of like 1 week.
These aren't That's not the point we're making. The problem started when they got educated, when they were informed, when black people took the time to let them know that what this means to us.
Do you think all black people
femmes,
agreed on that particular point? Because I mean, I don't.
For those that were even arguing it, it was a very terminally online because everyday, like I said, everyday black folks.
Well, I feel like that goes both ways, right?
Instagram.
That goes both ways, right? Like arguing.
Not
over
when it comes to this. This is
arguing over the hashtag being used is like almost intrinsically terminally online, right? Like nobody.
The talking points that people were running with was a very terminally online thing with people that were feeling entitled to, and that's why I said the colonizer mentality, because it's the whole thing when like, we let white people know, like, hey, like, this is what it means to us, and folks were like, well, I don't care, I desire this, so you're gonna, too bad how you feel. I have my own bigger purpose. That's because that's when it came, like I said.
Disagreeing as a white person is the colonizer mentality.
When we already had to educate them. So like I'm not attacking or mad at anyone that used it initially. That's what most black folks don't feel that way. And I think anyone that did feel that way initially, like that's more like a Twitter thing. But when it comes to
So she literally just said white people disagreeing with her is the colonizer mentality. Disagreeing with her makes you racist. You understand how you literally can't win with these people, right? So instead, you would want to have a conversation about actual issues pertaining to racism. And just show that you can more competently argue against racism and for racial justice than any of these people can. Because none of these people have equipped themselves to argue in favor of what they believe politically. They spend all their time arguing with other lefties about how other lefties aren't woke enough. They can't, like, actually defend their core values. They'd fall apart. They do nothing but attack the people that do.
When we go out of our way to educate and let you know why, you know, we're very sensitive about our own movements that we made, and this has been like way before Xanderhal, years before Xanderhal, and a lot of people don't even know who Xanderhal is.
Yeah.
There was a very specific reason why this was even created initially. This is not like a hashtag like Me Too. Because no one's over here arguing that just because that was made initially by a black woman, that no one else should be using it. This is a very specific, different case.
Well,
this
right,
is not a Me Too thing. Because that's why I feel like people were trying to talk about it as if like it was a Me Too hashtag. Because when I saw some certain people using that came from a black woman, and I thought that.
Well, I mean, that's why
not the right argument.
You know,
but
from my position, that's why I
case.
kind of think that the ownership argument about hashtags to me seems, you know, somewhat silly. Again,
that's why I'm saying this is a different case. This isn't a Me Too hashtag. This is very specific to a very, like, when it comes to just like the movement that black women specifically are underrepresented and all that stuff, like everything, that, again, even of our own movements. That's the whole. Say Our Name would never exist if Black Lives Matter was actually inclusive to women and trans folks. When the same week as George Floyd, when he was murdered, Iana Dior, a black trans woman, in the same city, was dogpiled, jumped by almost upwards to 30 people for getting in a car accident, simply just because she was trans.
Hey, Pillow.
These
I mean,
hashtags
I
exist
agree with you
exactly
that, like,
for that. So that's why,
well, but
you know, like I get where you're coming from. But like I said, like every
Okay. Reminder, regardless of how much she tries to ooh-woo it up here, she is literally just trying to rationalize her crusade she started against white trans Twitter users who used hashtag say her name as a way of bringing awareness to the fact that a 16-year-old trans woman was murdered. A child had a hate crime committed against her and she was murdered, and it needed to have awareness raised about it. Yeah, I'm just grinding out cobalt ingots in FF14 right now. It's pretty fun.
black people are not going to have the Twitter response that a lot of these people that felt very entitled, which isn't a colonizer mentality when it comes to white folks.
I feel like that's.
Despite us, and
I just feel like it's very hard to judge.
This is how black people talk. This is how black people talk about these type of mentalities. We're not afraid to use that word. And you know, if, you know, you can feel how you.
She is a big fan of pretending like she is the queen of black people, isn't she? That is unironically her whole thing right now, is that she's more of a colonizer than anyone else here. I was not there for that meeting. Where was my invite? That's a good meme, Pillow.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's being said here that's like, I don't know exactly.
I'm not saying you have to agree with me as a black person, because you know I know where we stand. I know when I brought it to, like I said, Instagram to just everyday black folks, we're very baffled.
Sure, but you always know, like, you have to know that, like, there's always going to be like a selection sample. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to say that, like,
very specific. This is about entitled people when they got informed.
Well, see, that's just why I just the reason why I contest the language is because, like, at least for me,
it's colonizer language. It's the right thing. It's the right word to describe that kind of entitlement mentality. That's exactly how we're talking. That's how we're talking in colleges right now. That's how, you know, that is exactly what, you know, when it comes to even the way like Gen Z Black folks are talking, and even other folks.
I just don't know. I don't know if I can. I can't agree with the idea that like people are being entitled by using the hashtag or by wanting to be able to.
They showed it when
they
got educated, and that's what Keffels did.
But I mean, it couldn't pretty much. I mean, that language always. That type of language always raises my hackles just a little bit, because I think that anybody can frame themselves as just educating. I could say right now if I wanted to that I'm just educating you, and whether or not people would say that's true, this is
just a common knowledge within the Black community though. Like this isn't like some like big brain.
I don't know if I agree that like I don't know if I buy the idea that like
you don't have to agree with that, but this
maybe it is. I don't know that either of us. Well, hold on. I don't know that either of us really have the ability to poll at large the Black community as a whole and come to a conclusion as to. Maybe
the Black community was not split on this.
I have a hard time believing that the average Black person.
I think here, this is like your own bias showing, because I'm literally just saying like right now, like I took it to outside of Twitter, where everyday Black women, people that run orgs, people that are just
and they said that
they responded.
I just want to be clear. They said that they felt like white women were colonizing the.
You don't. Let's be specific about our wording.
Well, I'm trying to be. That's why I asked specifically like what you're saying that they did, because there's been some.
Okay, I'm almost certain at this point that Soulbunni is purposefully saying Pacific instead of specific. That is on purpose. That's on purple.
Back and forth as far as what
we're saying white people in general. We didn't say white. We said white people.
So you think that white people were colonizing it with a dead trans teenager
mentality? Wasn't. That's the problem. Is you can like.
And the thing is that we get lost in some of the vague language, and I just
want
us to remember.
Wait,
no. I want to be completely clear. Hold on.
That's a straw man.
Hold on. Please hold on a second. I'm not trying to make you angry. I'm just trying to be clear, because again, what we're talking about.
Sensitive though, because
is Pacific an AAVE thing? Sort of. It's one of those crossovers between AAVE and Southern dialect. Like a lot of Southern white people, like. Even me, I had to get like I had to stop saying Pacific when I was a kid, because like in the South a lot of people say Pacific or like really do not enunciate the S, and so it's just one of those things where it's just across the South a lot of people say it like that. It's not necessarily like something you have to train out of yourself. It's just one of those things where it's like a hard thing to pronounce. I feel like, you know, like specific, just it's weird. It's easy to trip on it, you know.
As like I'm gonna like I don't want to like keep repeating myself, like I said, the problem lied is once they were educated, because we all get
like English is a very stupidly designed language, so there's a lot of AAVE that actually fixes English to an extent. Like English is kind of stupid, and so there are aspects of AAVE that are actually like pretty decent fixes to certain like weird bizarre things about like English. It's just, yeah. There's a good video that breaks down how stupid English is. It's a guy with like a card thing, right? And he's got like the flip things where you can flip different parts of the board to show different things underneath it. And he shows how stupid English is. He's like, tomb? Okay, then this must be comb. No, that's comb. Okay, so then this must be bomb. No, that's bomb. Okay, then this must be, what was the next one? Gnome, right? Or, yeah, nom, right? No, that's gnome. And it's like, it goes on. H-O-M-E, that must be home. No, that's H-O-M-E. Or H-O-E-M, that must be home. No, it's H-O-M-E. So, yeah, it's an older video, but English is stupid.
Yeah, why they used it.
You guys got me stun locked again. Thanks, chat.
We know it's for a noble cause. Okay.
Okay, let me ask you.
We gave them alternatives. Wait, one second. We gave them alternatives, and they said no. We want to say your name, and that's why.
Look at Irish spelling.
Folks, that entitlement. We
probably makes more sense in Irish.
That's some colonized behavior shit right there, and that's how everyday Black people will see that. We're not over here afraid to use the word colonizer because they're gonna hurt the feelings of non-Black people when our shit is being colonized. That's literally how we talk about when a lot of even just play AAVE when it gets co-opted. So this is a very similar sense, and we get it. Like I said, a noble cause. But once you get educated and you say fuck that, I don't care how you feel.
Okay, I feel like. I think there's a level of, like, white people using AAVE that's not necessarily cultural appropriation or co-opting. It's just cringe. But then I think there's a certain point where it just gets popularized to the extent that it's just used by everybody now, right? Sus, for example, comes from AAVE. Sus? That word that everybody uses now and is a massive fucking meme comes from AAVE. I'm pretty certain it is, yeah. Everybody I've spoken to on it has said so. So, like, sometimes it just gets popular. Sometimes it just gets popular with everybody. And it's not necessarily, like, cultural appropriation. It's just... it got popular.
How I feel it goes above how you feel. That's some colonized behavior shit, and that's exactly
Okay,
how
but
Simp
that
is also
mentality right
AAVE. Yes, Simp is also AAVE, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. A lot of these... okay, to be fair, a lot of AAVE even, like, the more, like, common slang terms, actually come from queer people of color communities, and then become... they get co-opted by straight people of color. And then they go from there, because at the end of the day, all culture is generally created by queer people. And so if straight people are doing it, then they probably already co-opted it from a queer person. That's just how it goes. So that's also the truth in the black community. Generally, yeah. Yeah, unironically. Most of the best art in any culture came from gay people. Like, queerness is where art comes from, like, for the vast majority of cultures.
Like, I don't, fuck you, I don't care how you feel. When we're talking about, and I need to be specific about this is not any straw man. When we're talking about a hashtag being used...
this is documented. I have it documented in my video.
Hold on. When we're talking about a hashtag that's being used for a dead trans woman, a child, like, do you understand how that might be not productive? Do you understand how that might actually, like...
I think it's not productive for white people to, like, dig their heels in on something that was very simple. When we gave
Well,
them
you're being very
options.
broad by saying white people, but I mean, I feel like there's probably
was a lot of white people.
I feel like
It
there's
was a
probably a
lot of white
diversity of
people.
opinions on this particular issue.
It wasn't a lot of black people running and saying this.
Well,
I'll
I
say
don't
that right
I
now.
don't think either of us have the numbers for how many black people agreed with this one.
Well, there were, but they were getting called the C slur. I saw it happening. I know that Carbon Cole the other night was getting shit on Blue Sky for some shit, like being accused of, like, not being black or something. I don't know. It was some weird shit. And then there was I saw the other day that there was, like, a lot of people who are, like, okay with keffals that are black on Twitter or Blue Sky are getting dogpiled and getting called shit. Ellen DeGenerate, friend of mine, was getting called some not so nice words for mixed race black people by a young lady on Blue Sky who did not like that I made fun of her calling keffals racist by replying with noodles are tasty. I proceeded to call her white over and over again, and she asked me, shouldn't I be at a Klan rally? And then I replied, I'm an undercover police officer currently staking out a Klan rally for a bust. Why can I see you in the crowd through my binoculars? And then she blocked me.
The hashtag
I
popped up
think
for a week on
you
Twitter.
would
All I'm
take-
saying is, all I'm trying to say is that, like, this, we got onto this because it was something that you said was like an example of why you think that
It is an
keffals.
example.
Hold on, hold on a second. Why you said that you felt like it was at least partially accurate to say that keffals had done damage or had caused pain writ large.
This was divisive. I said be divisive, and this is an example.
Okay,
of
why this was divisive, but, like, can you understand how people might interpret it another way, and not without us jumping into saying people are colonizers, or without jumping into any sort of other thing like that? Can you understand how people could feel like trying to make an argument over hashtag ownership in the midst of a tragedy of a child who is trans might come across as other people as divisive in and of itself, and they might be. Can you at least acknowledge that they might have some genuine reason to feel frustrated by that, or feel like that was being used in bad faith?
I think you're setting the field that I'm supposed to respond by how you're setting the field for me on this, because
I'm just
there's a
asking
lot
a
of
very genuine question.
No,
I'm not
I
saying
see
you
the
feel
question
right
you're
now.
making, but it's a question that you're basically setting, like, this is basically, if I say no to that it's because the way you worded it, how you built up to that, and this just in this moment of when you paused after you responded, because and when you said that there's a lot of your bias that you were putting in that, because at the end of the day, like, it was a very harmful, terminally online thing for the people that reacted negatively after they got educated and entitled.
Do you think that every person? Do you think?
After they got educated. Remember, these are people so stuck up and so full of themselves, so sure that they are 100 billion% right and unwilling to change their minds, that they call disagreeing with someone educating them.
Think that every person who responded to
It's like white fragility. Like, when we sat there
Well,
and we explain, and your response is to still say, "I don't care."
I just feel like
I
you're being very broad. Like, okay, here's the problem that I'm having.
think I'm very
The problem-
clear and
The
candid
problem I'm
with
having
it.
here is that I feel like there's a sort of we have a fluctuating focus. There's a statement.
I'll say this. Olamide Lerma will agree with me on this. I'll say that 100% because she, like I said, like Black folks, we get this. This is like a very given. That's what's like. This was a very terminally online thing, a moment that should have never had gotten even to the point that it did. It should.
I mean, I agree.
Okay, you can't deflect from the inevitable fact that you did a super terminally online thing by trying to call everybody who made fun of you for being insane and terminally online themselves terminally online for engaging with you. That's not how it works. You started this terminally online fuckfest.
My video on it was that I felt like there's a time and a place, and that when we're dealing with tragedies, that like we should be strategigic to a certain degree.
I don't think Black people were bad for educating folks on the importance.
I mean, I never said that, so I didn't say that at all.
Why they can use this, because that's like the point. Because that's what happened. That's what Black people did. They educated, and it's the way.
Do you think every single? I mean, let's be honest here. Do you think every single Black person? Do you think every single Black person educated, and that there was nobody who was like none of there was no Twitter fights happening. There was none of that because like.
Well, the Black people who were disagreeing were getting called slurs and getting like, I saw several Black Vosh fans getting called. I consider this a slur. A lot of people don't, but I mean, I learned the word from Richard Spencer screaming it in like a covertly recorded video, so it's a slur to me. The one that sounds like octopus, like tons of Black fans of Vosh and mine and Keffel's getting called that by like cornbread tube sphere fans. They really love that term. They don't like mixed race Black people very much by the looks of things. They're not a big fan of mixed race Black people over on cornbread tube. At least if the race you're mixed with is white, they're not a fan of you.
I mean, to me, I look at this whole thing, this whole situation to me, and what I see.
That's like similar to you saying if I can say if every Asian American person agrees with affirmative action, there's going to be a small, tiny portion.
Well, I know, but I'm not the one who's. In this conversation, I have not invoked any. I have not invoked any group monolithically. I just want to be clear.
You literally said every though.
Because you're saying that like okay, this is what I'm talking about with the vagueness and the specificity is sometimes going back and forth.
I'm very clear though. I don't think I'm vague because this is a very common sense thing within the Black community as far as how we feel about say our name. So like I said, like I think this is the last time I'll say this because I think we can move on to the topic because you're not going to get me to concede on this as a Black person.
Yeah, it's really disturbing how much like the Hotep adjacent like anti-miscegenation, anti-integration, like soft pro segregation, like Black ethno state shit has become a bit more pervasive on the left. It's actually gotten like scarily more popular. And the problem is, like, it's not at risk of, like, seeing victory or anything like that. It's at risk of dragging the left down with it, you know? Like, that's what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about these people, like, dominating online leftist discussion because, like, I think that they're going to win. They're going to fall. They're going to sink to the bottom. I don't want them to take the rest of the left down with them. Because when normies see this kind of shit, the left looks like repellent to them. And they're desperately trying to make it so that, you know, if anybody was going to, like, discover, like, any right-winger was going to discover lefty content online, they'd discover them and write off lefty content in a heartbeat before they could ever stumble across a Debate Bros streamer.
To regular Black people outside of Twitter that don't even use no Twitter, that over here with kids and stuff that just check their Instagram, like, is basically their Facebook.
Sure.
We all saw the entitlement, and which is traits of a colonizer mentality. When we educate you about it, and folks' first thing is to go use a straw man on, well, my cause matters more, or you go pull up that indigenous folks use it as a straw man to go shoehorn yourself into using it.
No,
right there, because that's what people were doing.
I think that's a very bad. I'm sorry, I gotta stop right there. I think that's a very bad faith interpretation of what I said.
I think it's bad.
What I said is that what I said. Excuse me. I gotta be able to say my piece on this particular part. But on this particular issue, what I was saying is that from my perspective, I would never have called it co-opting if Black women started using a 3-word hashtag that also happened to be previously used by, missing Indigenous women, which it is, and it is. You can verify this. It's just a matter of fact.
I didn't use the example of Me Too, that like it started off with someone Black, but no one's going to sit here and be mad that non-Black people used it. So that's why I said that Me Too and Say Your Name are not to the same thing. So you can't. That's because your example is equivalent to Me Too. When it's going to say your name,
is that? I don't think so. I'm literally using the Say Her Name, and I'm saying that like missing
Some
missing
I
and
guess
murdered
certain
Indigenous women is a
hashtags are
movement that use
different
that
than other
hashtag. By
hashtags.
chance or by inspiration, I don't know. Like, it's
Remember, this woman who is currently arguing with Demon Mama about which hashtags are more important than the others is calling us terminally online.
hard to track the inspiration of a hashtag or of a phrase.
You'll
or a
have to
chant.
give me numbers onto the degree of the amount, because you said like about
That's
the
what I'm
numbers,
saying,
how,
though.
like,
But the numbers.
No,
now
I'm-
you want numbers.
But you're not,
I just.
no, I'm using the same example of how. So you're asking for numbers on how many black people agree on the common sense thing.
No,
of the same
I'm
name.
just saying
But, when
that
but I
I
have
don't
two
know if
numbers
we
for
can
how many
make it-
indigenous people actually use say your name, to the degree that it could be used as an argument against black people that are saying please respect us on this boundary that we're setting. Here are literal hashtags that you can use for hashtag her name is Brianna and these other things that we did offer. And folks said no. They were entitled to. So that's exactly why we use the language of colonized.
I think
And
all of this
there's
is kind
no
of
way getting
aside
around
from the
that.
point of what I was
And I
saying,
think
which
it's
is
a
that
bias
like,
to just
I
to
would
not
never,
acknowledge
I would
that.
never call it colonizer behavior, or I would
You
never
don't
say
have
that it was
to.
colonization.
And you're not black, so you
but
don't
I don't
have
think
to.
you would
This
agree
is
with
how
that
black
either.
people move.
Well, I just don't think you would. I don't think you would call black women colonizers for using a hashtag that was initially used, say her name, which was initially used by murdered and missing Indigenous women. What I'm saying is, I don't think this is.
But we're
how-
not. We have our
hold on,
own
hold on.
hashtags,
What
so
I'm trying to
we
say
don't
is,
have to go
I don't think that that's exactly how hashtags work. And because of that, because nobody can actually own a hashtag, you or I right now, you could.
I don't
go
think
on-
black
you
people
wait,
have to
hold
go
on, hold on.
copyright a
Hold on,
hashtag
hold on,
for
hold on,
us
hold on.
to
I'm not saying you got it. In
perspective.
fact, that's the opposite. I'm saying the opposite of that. You could right now go tweet anything you want. You could literally type anything you want with a hashtag of any type. You could take say her name. You could take me too. You could take any hashtag. That's just how hashtags work. They are tagged. You can
Yeah, I
tag
could get
anything.
that.
And so as a result,
No one's going to use Black Lives Matter for a non-black cause, and that's equivalent to what Say Your Name is, because it was exactly directly to the Black Lives Matter movement that it wasn't inclusive to black and femme trans women. So that's exactly why we are very protective of it, because it's essentially the femme version of Black Lives Matter.
No, I think actually, for example, who knows that one the Simon Says cop shooting video, the body cam footage of the cop where the guy, like the drunk dude who is completely innocent and not involved with the situation, is like confused as fuck and doesn't know what's going on, and the cop is like screaming at him with the gun pointed at him and is like telling him to do a million different things at once, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's like standing there frozen, confused, like, and he's like trying to comply, like he's asking, wait, did you want me to put my hands on the ground or in the air? I can't, wait, I can't have my stomach on the ground and my hands high in the air. And the cop just unloads on him. And so it's been nicknamed the Simon Says video, because it's like, oh, it didn't say Simon Says. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah. Like, sharing that video around with the hashtag BLM, even though the victim was white, is completely valid, because one of the core, like, focuses of the BLM movement is police brutality. And the idea, conservatives heavily push the idea that, oh, isn't it interesting how police brutality only ever happens to black people? It's like, no, actually, the police are so bad, they do it to white people too. You should care, even if you are kind of a racist piece of shit. Look at this. So I think that's actually, like, good in situations like that. I don't think that would be, like, co-opting the hashtag, even though it would be a video of a white guy getting shot. Yeah.
Because that's, they're not using his name they're not doing that literally. So that's why we're very.
well, I mean, I
protective
have
about
seen
it.
like say his name used multiple times. I mean, I've seen that around even in posters and stickers that have been put up
And
around
even
town.
with that conversation, that's like a co-op of Say Her Name. So, because Say Her Name exists because of Black Lives Matter was not inclusive to us, and that's already a conversation that Black folks had years ago. So this is another thing. So it's like what Black people are saying, like, if
Where are the meetings? Wait, a pillow. Where are the where are the meetings? Where, like, she's actually talking like there's meetings. Clearly, I wasn't invited. Oh my god. Like, you have to understand that this kind of language just absolutely melts to pieces when normal people hear it, okay? You have to be, like, terminally online, like with your head so buried in dipshit lefty cultural discourse, like a goddamn ostrich, for this to resonate with you at all. So, like, but still, you know, it's just, it's astonishing.
and Me Too and other folks, like, white folks would know this is exclusive for Black folks if they paid attention when people were using it for Breonna Taylor, and so even just
The meetings are the voices in Soulbunni's head. Thank you.
2020, that's like the most recent time that collectively it showed us that they weren't paying attention, that if
Do
they
you
weren't
feel-
they weren't really taking that in and really understanding that, you know, this is a movement that we've created because of our own lack of representation, and if people don't respect that, that is some colonizer behavior, and there's no getting around that for at least Black folks. That's how Black folks feel, and we have every right to feel that way, and we're not trying to be palatable for non-Black folks. They can feel however they want to feel, but at the end of the day, when we took the time after we educated and folks dug their heels in, that's on them, on how they feel, because we don't care how anyone feels when it comes to after we took the time to let them know, like, hey, like, I get it, but can you please not to and use these instead. If we let them give you option and you smack it down, you're like, no. So at the end of the day,
now
like,
you're saying you. Now you're saying you. This is one of the things that I don't understand.
No, this wasn't a me thing. This was a collective thing, because like Black Twitter got involved in this. This wasn't just like a leftist space thing. Like this got into,
I'm not gonna lie.
It was trending. Like orgs were using it. Like this got outside of just any insular like leftist space. Like orgs had to apologize.
When you say in orgs, I know what you're talking about. It was actually it was one small protest group in the UK that did do an apology. But I mean, when we're talking orgs that apologized, this was a small org that did the apology.
I think you're splitting hairs.
Well, no, see, that's
I made myself clear.
What? I don't know what you mean by that.
I mean, okay. To try to express the perspective of Black folks and how we feel.
I hear what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is, don't you think?
Like, Soulbunni is an actual cartoon character. Like, I actually cannot see Soulbunni being a functioning real-life human being. Like, I'm not saying this to be mean. I can't keep it any longer. But, like, everything about her is, like, the biggest, like, Tumblrite, Twitter, like, toxified, like, abusive, like, covered with ooh-woo, pink paint, fake. She's literally just the meme where it's like, some of you bitches are like, but are actually horrible people. Like, that's just who she is as a human being. And I honestly can't see her going out and, like, ordering a pizza. I don't think she could call, like, the pizza place and order it over the phone without, like, pissing and shitting.
To Instagram and just regular day Black folks that don't know nothing about no bread tube, don't know nothing about no debate pros, that know nothing about even how Twitter spaces go.
Like, she orders a pizza and the pizza, like, guy on the other end is like, yeah, okay, ma'am. I'm trying to do, like, my best, like, voice cracked teenager voice. Yeah, okay, ma'am. The pizza will be on the way soon. That'll be $15.69. What? What? That's just the price of the pizza, ma'am. 15. That's how much it says on the website. Yeah, that's how much the pizza is worth. You're charging me as much as you are white people? Do you not know the history? And then she'd go on, like, a rant for, like, half an hour, and the employee at the end would be like, okay, that's all well and good, but I still have to charge you the stated amount for the pizza. And then she would call his boss, his, like, corporate boss, and claim that the pizza guy was using colonizer language.
Some of them don't even engage ever with Black Twitter. So,
like
I said, like,
I mean, I don't know. I didn't say anything about any of that, so I don't know. I don't know.
I think we're going in circles on this.
We are going in circles a little bit. The point is, what I'm trying to say here is, I think that there is especially, I mean, we can go back onto the topic of quote-unquote BreadTube, of quote-unquote video essayists, these consumer groups, which is what they are. They are consumer-created categories that people can sort of pitch their content to, and sometimes they'll be accepted, and sometimes they won't. You know, nobody really knows who actually belongs in BreadTube and who doesn't, because it's created by viewers. Viewers decide who they call BreadTube. Nobody actually.
That is true.
On all these groups and in these sort of broad spaces that we exist in, I think that there is an active tendency, and I think that this is on a lot of sides, to overstate harm, to pick issues that are one, you know, there might be some sort of nugget of truth or analysis that's there, but then turn it into like a major social what's the word I'm looking for, schism, or like a point there where you have to declare a side, and I think a lot of it is kind of unproductive. And we kind of got off on a tangent on this particular topic because I was asking, you know, your opinion and trying to share some of mine as far as the way I look at it. And I don't know, when I see a lot of people claiming that they care, maybe it's just the whole space is just shot. Maybe all of this just doesn't matter, and this conversation doesn't matter, and none of the videos we've been talking about matter, and your videos don't matter, and my videos don't matter. That's also a possibility. I'm totally open to that. I mean, I you know, am very honest with my audience and tell people I'm an entertainer at the end of the day. I've never been anything other than that. I've never represented myself as some kind of, you know, political thought leader or activist or whatever. But I guess I just feel like a lot of times there is a weaponization of serious topics or topics that are serious at their core, and they turn into like really hurtful interpersonal fights that just make everybody miserable and everybody bored too. That's the worst. That's like almost the worst part, is that everybody in here is a streamer and a YouTuber. We're all entertainers at the end of the day, no matter how, you know, much we self-delude about it, which I don't. Maybe other people do. I know there are a lot of people who try to sell themselves as saviors
Highly
or as a
nuanced.
movement leader or something, when ultimately you're making YouTube.
We are entertainers first, and political activists and educators second. None of these other things that we do matter if we are not entertaining and capable of retaining an audience while we do it.
Videos at the end of the day, and that I think YouTube videos are cool, but they are YouTube videos, and I guess there's just a lot of. It seems like there's a lot of fucking. There's a lot of hyperbole. There's a lot of statements of harm that I don't feel are often backed up with evidence. And I worry about that. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it makes the space miserable, and it actually defeats our ability to do cool stuff. It floods the space with people slandering each other in games of telephone instead of like actually cool and interesting things. Does that make sense? That was
I can agree with
the
the
kind of
slandering
broader point.
Twitter thing. And even just when it hits Twitter, like when it hits Twitter, the Discord hits Twitter, it definitely gets. That's when it really becomes unproductive. I can say that. Like when it hits Twitter, the type of like on both sides how takes can kinky where it can potentially get and has gotten. And not everyone obviously that are engaging on the Twitter discourse, but there's spaces where, even if whatever the intention was for the videos, the cause was lost. Like even for example, my video, I never wanted the type of like the way how on both sides escalated and did the most on both sides, and it just a whole discussion on my video got overshadowed by all these entities that were turning up the volume on things on Twitter. Again, this is Twitter. Like it became its life.
It's interesting how she gets to gain 13,000 subscribers from all of this, making like an extremely clickbait hit piece video, and then to that big audience she's now sort of cultivated through her hit piece video, she gets to play the victim and say, oh, I never wanted this to go so far. People are misrepresenting me, and I just wanted this to be like, she's basically trying to have her cake and eat it too, to have gotten a ton of views, money, relevance, etc. from said video, while at the same time pretending like it wasn't meant to be this big call out, right? So she's a victim of success, is the perspective she's trying to put forward.
Of its own once it hit Twitter.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think now there's like
I was
also.
just
There's also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off.
I as a small creator at that moment, I had like no control over how that was gonna. Because there was even days where when I'll see them having a discussion about this user discourse, and I was able to like, oh, you're talking about me just without not saying me, and I'm like, oh, this has become a thing of its own, like, and that shocked me. Like I never anticipated to even get more than at the time what my usual views were, which is like about like 10K, because like my most viewed video was my transphobia and trans misogyny video. That's what I was like. I got discovered off of that video, so like I was very I was not prepared for how that went down. Like I had no idea. Like I remember like when I had the call with like who's now my editor, about like saying like, oh, like you'll think like the people from the States will find it in like 3 months. They're like, oh no, honey, they probably already found it. And I'm like, no, like you're joking. Like nah, like maybe in a couple weeks. But within 2 hours after the call, when I went to like a housewarming party, I was wondering why my phone was blowing up, and that's when I saw the 15-second clip circulate. And from that point, like I lost all agency of like how that was like running. And
She can afford an editor? Oh yeah, like of all the people in this space that actually do make good money, the woke scolds actually make a good amount of money. They have like a lot of people, they show like their Ko-fi links and their Patreon links pretty hard. Most of these people make like a shit ton of money through Patreon. Jesse Gender, for example, I think makes a steady like 4 or 5K a month just through Patreon. So yeah, Patreon's like a big earner for these content creators, and they make a good amount of money.
some people were taking it really far. Like there was like an account that was like just like being
nothing nearing conservatives, but like you have to understand, if you are a content creator on either political side and you're willing to shovel shit down the throats of people who already believe it and just want to hear more of it, then they'll just like pay you to hear it, right? I argue with you guys nonstop and have to convince you of things all the fucking time, right? I don't pander to you guys at all. Like, you guys know I don't pander to you motherfuckers. But if you do pander to your audience hardcore, then it can be very lucrative.
just very, what's the word, casual with just like wishing, not wishing, but just like being careless and not caring of like, I think it's essentially
I
wishing
would say
to
people
death.
people
I
definitely
would say
get
it's
like
equivalent.
cavalier with that. Yeah, like
Yeah,
people-
cavalier. That's
people-
what I was
yeah.
thinking of. Cavalier. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, they'll throw around. I mean,
Cavalierly.
they'll throw around pedophilia allegations. They'll throw around, I hope you die. That kind of shit. That's really fucking hurtful.
Yeah,
in my
I saw
opinion,
that,
goes
like-
way above and beyond.
and, and I've seen that today on Twitter, and I'm seeing people defend that just because it's Keffels, and I'm cringing like, you guys are goofy. Like all you guys that are liking this and commenting, and like you guys look silly. Like you're not gonna find me ever liking anything like that on my Twitter. You'll never, because that's like I cringe at that, and it's just like they don't even see They're so caught up in the personality. So let me see how optically wrong that is. So I can agree with you on things like this. I do see where you're coming from, and I do agree because on a lot of it, I wouldn't say all of it is that, but I do see that side, and that side.
Walking shit back now.
I won't lie. Like I'll get people like they'll cluster up to our videos and the discourse on that, and usually like those people end up running and controlling the discourse because like they're part of the people that make it its own life, a life of its own. Because that's what happened with the way things would happen in chat. Because like I said, like people talking to me like as like because people like you were wishing the death on Vosh. Was like I wasn't replying to like Vosh had left a comment, and then the next day came back and left another comment, and I didn't reply to either one, and I didn't block him, and he's still not blocked. But I didn't engage, but I'm saying like both sides was doing the most, and this is me as someone that saw it go down. Like so I see what you mean because that's from my own situation. I can literally use an example. So like I 100% get what you're saying. I didn't see everybody, but there was a lot of people that was doing stuff. It was just like right now.
What did Jessie Gender do again? Oh, she was fully behind the calling Shark 300 the sea slur. She's also gone full on the side of like the woke scold anti-debate bro side of things. She's like fully like a piece of shit.
There's a lot of people that are becoming very unproductive on both sides with how just like it's gone. It's really just boiled down to personalities and just even some of the original critiques, like the source of where the conflict that people have is like lost because now it's just like tweeting screenshots of folks back and forth at this point.
Yeah, I mean, so not to like, you know, try and close this out or anything, but I am pushing 7 hours on my stream. I just wanted to say, do you think you would agree with me with this? I'm going to make a statement.
These people are going to eat themselves. I don't know if you were here when she said it earlier, Pillow, but she said at one point, she oftentimes thinks about blocking people that follow her on Twitter, and sub to her on YouTube and stuff. But she knows that if she did, they would have a big mental breakdown and write a big thread on Twitter about it. So she's literally just mask off admitted that she panders to this audience of mentally unstable, deranged fucking, like, leftoids that would literally rip her apart limb from limb if she ever failed to toe the line exactly like they want her to. They're all a victim of their own audiences, the woke scold types. D-Mama's talking about you on her stream right now. I hope positively. I'm talking about her positively.
I want to see if you agree with it. Do you think that
Probably
this space
positively.
could seriously benefit from people taking it down a few notches and from being willing to like tell one another to like, hey, like especially friends to be like, hey, like tone it down a little bit. Like, because I think that would make these spaces actually start to resemble spaces. I think that we could actually start to have some community, actual forms of community where people are making stuff together and not just fucking firing back and forth at each other all the time. But I think that's going to require people being willing to sort of forego the drama bucks or forego these sort of tempting easy clicks. Like, I mean, I've done that in my content. I know.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
My ideal left, whenever I started doing lefty political content, what I thought was going to happen was that what people were calling BreadTube, because this is like this new concept at the time, and it wasn't like a cringe label or anything like that back then either. This idea of BreadTube, what I hoped it would be like a complete like flip-turned lefty version of like the skeptic community Gamergate era, you know? This like it dominated all of YouTube, the skeptic like Gamergate community, the anti-SJWs. They did an extremely good job of making far-right politics palatable to a very broad variety of people. And they were this, like, interconnected web of content creators that would collaborate and work together, and it honestly seemed like they were having fun doing it, too, to be honest. And it all fell apart in the end, thank God, but I was hoping that the left, like LeftTube, BreadTube, would essentially be a left-wing version of that, and very quickly that hope was crushed upon realizing that the left is so inherently fractured that there is literally no way to achieve any form of a united left. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not possible. It is a fool's errand. In fact, there are a good amount of people on the left, quote unquote, that you honestly don't want to ally with. History would suggest you don't want to ally with tankies if you're an anarchist, for example. I don't think that, like, just because, for example, a Hotep says that they are ostensibly left-wing because they care about, like, fighting white supremacy, I don't think that makes them an ally to me that I need to, get with and try to work with to achieve any level of equal goals, because that person is essentially a Nazi. I don't want to work with Nazis to achieve anything in particular. Not ideally.
exactly. Like, I wanted my video to be the last one discussing this. Like, I was hoping the way I structured my video as a purging thing, I wanted it to be a purging for the space, like the way I laid it out to be just it all.
Yeah.
So like that's always been my stance. Like I went into making my video as it. I don't, especially as far as on my side, as far as like the space that I operate, to be the last. I didn't feel like there was anything else I needed to be chimed in on. So like I would rather, because I would say like this, like I was not advised to even make the video, but by multiple creators in my own space. But like I said, like this was like a personal purging for me that I felt the need to get out.
Yeah.
And
but
yeah,
obviously,
so, like,
you never, no content creator ever gets to have the final say on anything. Something I have learned myself. None of us, no matter how big our egos get, should ever fool ourselves with the idea that you get to have the last word on anything, because that's not how it works. You put out a video, it's always going to be comments, it's always going to be reply videos. So. Yeah, I mean, again, I
agree with you.
Yeah, I feel like there would be a lot of benefit if people would.
Oh yeah, I've got a Shiba.
It's
my little Shiba Inu pet.
Stop it with the fucking baseless allegations. Stop it with the overstating of harm. Stop it with the exaggerations. These are all things like that piss me off. I mean, again, you quoted me talking about something I was frustrated about, which was the way that some people were, in my opinion, misrepresenting and exaggerating what actually went down in the Cat Black situation between Cat Black and Vosh, which that whole thing I thought was a phenomenally stupid fight. But I also understand why both Cat Black and Vosh found themselves feeling defensive and hurt. I went over that whole thing on stream. So you know my opinion on that. I fucking hate this shit. But I also think it's a problem, and I don't think it's just people. I don't think it's just like viewers. You know, viewers are bad at it. I mean, but also like, no offense to all of you in chat, love you all, but chatters are fucking stupid. Okay, everybody's chatters are fucking stupid. That's just how the chats work. They're big masses of people just typing shit on a moment's notice. People who don't have any they don't have any stakes. There's not, we put our faces to all of this stuff. We put our names to these things. Chatters don't. But it's not just chatters. There's video makers. I mean, I feel like the video I reacted to today did a whole lot of what we've been talking about. And I feel like it does a disservice to the actual topics, but more than that, it does a disservice to the space. And it does generate clicks. It's true. It can make you a quick buck. Foreign Man's video got a lot of clicks. It definitely did. But those clicks don't last. And the cost is what we're talking about now, this never-ending gnashing of teeth, this like cycle of people lying about each other, right? I don't know.
Definitely where you ended off. Yeah, it has become on both sides. Like, just it didn't need to get up to this point. It really didn't have to be this Twitter war. That's something I really want to say, that like on my own side of things. Like, you have your opinion on certain things about the video, and you have every right. I'm not gonna ever police you on that. I'm not gonna argue or debate you or anything on your.
I appreciate
opinion.
that.
I allow, like, that's where I'm
Totally
gonna when I
open
see
to it.
that. That's where I stand. Like, I'm not gonna, like, you have every right to feel how you feel and share your audience like how you feel about things. But as far as what the end result of things, we can both agree. I don't like how things are being drawn out. Something that could have just ended maybe 2 days of Twitter. Why are we going on day 4? Why are we going on
2
day 4?
days?
Like, that's where it's just like on both sides. Like, hey, let's just, because both people engage, because everyone got each other blocked. So people are snooping on each other that are blocked and just sharing each other's screenshots. Like, y'all stop engaging. Like, stop. Like, I see stuff about Soulbunni all day. I'm not, after I said
She's mad that people are responding to the lies that she's spreading about Keffels and whatnot. So basically what they desperately want is for us to stop responding to them so that they can continuously tell an audience of well-meaning but in the know lefties, hey, keep an eye out for these debate bro streamers. They're real racist, transphobic, awful people. And they don't want there to be responses out there that say, hey, actually that's completely untrue, and here's the evidence that debunks that. Here's actually the evidence that shows that the person you watched is a liar.
Welcome to being a creator in a space that's like this. That's part of the problem. I mean, that's part of the reason why I get so fucking mad. The reason why I got so fucking mad at this video is because, I mean, I'm just like, I look at this shit and I'm just like, man, this is what makes these spaces, this is the type of behavior that makes these spaces so miserable. And I've seen it be different. I was making content before most of these rifts existed, and it's in a bad place, but it's got to start, at the end of the day, it comes down to us. And I know that I'm like a larger creator overall than you, so I'm not trying to like put undue burden on you or anything like that. But I mean us as the creators. We are the voices in the space, and it does come down to us in a lot of ways, whether these things get perpetuated or whether we just say, you know what, this isn't fucking productive, fuck it. I mean, I can tell you
at this point,
100%,
it wasn't productive once it was even the end of day 1. It was already very clear that this wasn't, again, like, I'm seeing, I want to say this before I go also, like,
sure.
I think it's personally wrong to try to think like people could hold Keffels accountable. Like, that's something like no one has the power really truly to do, and folks like running to try to like do that.
Notice how like every time you get these people on a debate, Noah Samson, FD Signifier, I think, did the same when he debated Shark. and in this case as well, they always like walk everything back and have a far less intense take in the conversation than they did in their video. It's because when they have a script and they've got their whole like diatribe they can go on without any live pushback and just an audience of people where they've got the mic and those people are just going to respond positively, then they can say whatever they want. But in a conversation like this, she's got to very carefully watch her rhetoric to the extent where she can't even actually defend her beliefs in a one-on-one convo. She just has to walk it back. Who is Demon Mama talking to? Soulbunni, and just an insane woke scold who's a really dishonest and spiteful person.
It's just like, one, I personally feel like you're wasting your time. But two, it's just like, that shouldn't even be your goal. Like, you can have your criticisms, but after you say your piece, people like trying to just like, now so that's like, at least I can like, if I'm being good faith, like that's something that I feel like, because this isn't like, again, these are just like things that are happening within like online, like, and again, like I said, I have my own criticisms about the divisiveness, but like,
Sure.
you know, I kept it that, and I'm not over here tweeting at Keffels after I make a video how I feel. Like, no, like I made my critique and I moved on. But there's people that they don't stop at critique and they're thinking they have this power to hold folks accountable, and this is like, and they're on both sides, and this is why things are drawn out for days on some things that just like, I just feel like it doesn't need to get to this place, and honestly, that's why. We're probably going to go on to day 5, and I don't know how long this is going to last.
People are pointing out in chat. You did put a comment on Keffel's video that I would consider kind of mean. But
I know what
like
I said. What I said.
Right? Yeah, but I mean, come on, right? Like that's the engaging, right?
Look,
it falls down to us
no,
to choose not to
not
engage, or how we choose to engage, right? Right?
I was very intentional with that. I'm standing with what I said.
When you said on her video,
and I deleted it, it too. And not because I don't stand with
noise.
it. I deleted it because I saw that it was pinned.
What a fucking coward.
And I took it as,
you felt like that was
this is
like unproductive or whatever, right?
I no, it's not about that. That's not, because like I said, I stand with it. It's that I knew it just stirred engagement of a bunch of comments, so I just removed it for just the engagement factor. It was very simple. Just like, oh, I saw the email and I just removed it when I was like, I didn't even realize it was pinned until I saw it.
God.
So like I said, like I stand with that, and you can look at my tweets.
You're so cowardly.
By the white
woman tears, if that's what you are referring to.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah,
I
it's
stand
just,
with it.
I mean,
I stand with it.
Yeah, all right.
I'm saying I stand with it. So
All right,
I'm not running.
to me, that feels like the opposite of it. But again, we didn't have this conversation yesterday, so hopefully tomorrow it will. You know, maybe this conversation will encourage.
This is literally like my last like talking about it publicly, anything. Like this was like kind of like, hey, like if I'm gonna.
The next day, Keffels put out her video in which she like goes deep in all of the evidence and screenshots showing that Soulbunni is a lying manipulator. A lot of people will be like, what is the point of all of this? But I think it's important for, like, when it's literally gotten to the point where these creators are giving themselves, like, a name for their community that's going to build itself off of trying to do career destruction to this side of, like, LeftTube, like, my friends and me. I think it's fair that we, like, take a certain level of effort to, like, respond to these people, because their game plan, as Jessie Gender herself said, is to create a leftist YouTube space that does not where we don't exist, where debate bros don't exist. In that same conversation, Bad Bunny compares debate bros streamers to a pathogen that needs to be eliminated, right? So it's very clear that, like, this isn't just some one-sided thing, you know? Like, we're not just, like, responding to these people for no reason. They're actively trying to destroy any semblance of a career that the content creators that they hate have. Hell, many of them are actively, like, pack-watching creators they don't like. And hoping for and waiting for them to die.
I have anyone that I'm gonna talk about this with I didn't expect you to want to talk, so this is like pretty
I'm
much
usually
like
very open to it, you know.
Yeah, so like I made a tweet already like this morning, yesterday, like I'm setting the boundary, like don't talk about Keffels to me. I didn't put her name, but and just like I'm over it. I'm gonna move on from it, like stop engage. Like I
definitely think that's a good idea. Like
I mean, it's like I'm gonna make my videos and stream and just like leaving at that. I'm leaving at that. So folks that kept like engaging and tagging me to things, they got blocked, and there's still more people out the blocks that just don't respect that boundary.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, but like I'm saying, like I stand with
on Twitter.
But everything that like I said led up to that, me setting that boundary, I stand with. So like I just want to make that show, because I'm not here to like litigate what I said. I stand with it, and I explain my own reasons, and you know, folks who I know what I was very clear with myself, and
Sure.
you know, there was
I
a
guess,
back and
again,
forth.
my whole purpose in all of this, the only reason I even talked about this drama at all, is because
I just was making myself clear, like there's nothing I'm backing down on or running from, and that's all this is. I'm not even trying to like lay them out.
Just so
I'm
you
like,
know, it's okay to fucking back down on stuff sometimes. And in fact, like, I mean, God, I had to learn that hardcore, okay? Like, it's okay as a content creator. You never want to fall into the trap of thinking you never back down. Because sometimes you're just
Well, of
wrong.
course,
Or sometimes
and
you
I
say
set a
something that's across the
boundary.
line. I mean, I once called a
well, I'm
fucking...
at a point where I'm not even engaging. Where like I'm not going to respond. I know where I stand, and there's no reason else to say anything else, or no video, no back and forth. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I just it's not productive at that point. So that's basically what that is for me right now. So I know what
I'm
you're saying.
sleepy.
But like, there's the same breath of this is a very simple decision that I made, and I know like the folks that I'm in community with know where I'm coming from and they agree with me. And this isn't about like, but yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's all it is. Like,
my hope in all of this is, I mean, again, there's a lot of people who don't like me, and sometimes I know that part of the reason that people don't like me is because it's just a simple fact. Some people really hate like anybody. Some people look for yes men, you know, and they look for you know, somebody who's gonna always agree with them. And there's a lot of people who know that I don't do that, especially knowing that I'm willing to take a personal hit and call out huge content creators by comparison, like Vosh. Some people won't associate with me because of that, but I just like to I like to hope that there is some way that we can move past the like.
Demon Mama and I got so much shit from the Shuon Head stuff when I called out Shuon Head for pushing a unfounded conspiracy theory that's feeding into the gay groomer narrative the right is pushing, that her own mutuals were pushing using her tweet by quote tweeting it, and she was ignoring it. And her response was to accuse me of defending pedophilia on Twitter, but even worse, she censors my identity in her video about it, but the only person whose identity she doesn't censor is Demon Mama's. So she calls Demon Mama a pedophile adjacent, like, groomer defender or something like that, and does not censor her name and, like, shows a clip of her stream and everything. So both me and Demon Mama got a ton of shit from Nazis during all of that. So, yeah, we're both. I can agree. I can agree with her when she says she's not willing to just say whatever people want to hear. She'll be contrarian, even when it's not beneficial to be contrarian on an issue.
These aging dramas, and that we can break some of the habits that cause these things to fester for so long. Because I really do think it's bad for the space. I think it makes it miserable for creators. Creators burn out all the time. There's a lot of personal hurt. There's a lot of actual legitimate trauma that happens to creators of all kinds of stripes. I mean, God knows. I mean, I know I fucking dealt with that. And I think Keffels has. I think Vosh has. I think Professor Flowers has. I think Cat Black has. I know Cat Black has. Cat Black has been creating content and dealing with fucking freaks on the internet for longer than any of us. And I just think that's dreadful. And it makes for a space that's not enjoyable. It limits us. It means that all of us nobody's gonna come hang out in this space because they think everybody's always at each other's throats, and especially if it's like a wolf crying situation where, like, if people say this, you know, really super crazy thing about somebody else or a really hyperbolic statement about somebody else, and then that turns out not to be true, well, they feel burned out. They feel like they can't trust anybody. What I'm saying is there's a severe issue of trust. There's a severe social issue in spaces that are largely full of people who call themselves lefties, call themselves pro-social. And for such a space that should be focused on empathy and socializing, to me it feels like there sure is a lot of bad blood and hatred and toxicity and toxic habits and toxic cycles. And there's a few key behaviors, you know? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? What my whole
No,
point
I get
is?
what you're saying, and I agree with you. Like, I exactly, I see what you're trying to say, and it's, yeah, like, I don't, like I said, like, I don't think this should be going on to day 5. This has been dragged on way longer.
Yeah.
Like, once people say, like, hey, like, I'm not going to engage, I'm not going to say anyone's name anymore, I'm setting a boundary if you don't bring her up, or don't bring them up, etc., you know, it should end there, at least publicly. Like, you guys can feel however you want behind the scenes amongst your friends, but just, like, at that point, it's just, like, engagement on just fans that are just, like, on both sides, that just, like, like I said, when they keep doing the screenshots, passing around, that's for every morning, each day is just over. It's like it doesn't need to get there. And just, like, you know, just stay blocked and just don't be like. And that's kind of just where like I said, like it becomes really toxic, and it doesn't have to be. And like I said, like whatever the back and forth with what it was, but when people are done engaging, you know, say your piece, and don't make it like a several day thing. And this goes for everyone. This goes for everyone. So I set that boundary with my audience. So.
Okay. I think we've seen enough. This is like the end of the debate anyway. Like, you know what really pisses me off about these people? It's just the fact that they try to act as though they're so high and mighty and so in the right undisputedly that when they talk about how, like, they call an expression of their opinions educating you. When they say, when they mean me and my friends, like, spammed you with comments saying that I'm right, they say, black people told you this, with the heavy implication that, like, this opinion is of, like, a monolithic community of an entire race, right? Like, it's just this arrogance, this narcissism that runs so deep that I don't think they even recognize what they are doing and how blatantly narcissistic it is. And because it's a community of fellow narcissists, they don't notice, like, the problem either amongst each other. Well, highly recommend checking out Demon Mama's channel. She makes some damn good content. She's a friend of the show, and I'm going to be doing a podcast with her. That'll be starting in the next few months, hopefully. I do need to get some proper equipment set up. I want to get, like, a proper camera before I do that, but that costs money. So, if you want to support the stream... Oh, look, we got a new striker. I think these people are, like, really, really counterproductive to everything that the left should be trying to achieve. This game's really good, by the way. You should join my free company. It's called Soul Strikers. It's very good. You should also go subscribe to Demon Mama, because her content's really good, and that podcast is going to be really good. You should also support me so I can afford a new camera and good audio equipment and stuff like that. I want to get, like, a soundboard and, like, one of those voice changer things so I can put an echo on myself or do, like, a cool voice change edit, like, live on stream. I see other streamers that do that, and it's fairly expensive hardware, but we could afford that someday. We could afford nice things, I think. Drop a like to help us afford nice things. I think that'd be awesome.